bases on balls. He's had a lot of hitters on base. And let's take a look at the defense for the Cubs. They've made a change. Henry Rodriguez starts in left field today. They had some problems out in the outfield in yesterday's ball game. Ball that bounced away from Hernandez in the late innings turned into a double. A little pop-up that bounced into shallow center field that Johnson and Blauser didn't handle well, and Bagwell scored from first for a single to tie the ball game. So they've made some changes, and Rodriguez also a big bat for the lineup.
Grant Brown on the bench as this one starts, and nobody will be rooting harder for the Cubs to win this one than Grant Brown, trying to exercise his own demons here tonight. Henry Rodriguez, by the way, will keep a close eye on him. He went on the disabled list on August 24th with a sprained ankle. He made only 5 starts after coming back, and none at all since 9 days ago. And in all of his starts, he made 5 starts there in mid-month. He usually was taken out early. He just was never fully healthy enough to play. So we'll see how he looks tonight, having had, in essence, the last 9 days off. Stan Javier leads it off, the veteran. Marvin Bedard has been hitting leadoff for the Giants most of the time, but they're going with the stronger defense tonight. So Javier is in there. And we're underway.
And plus, John, Javier is a very streaky hitter, and he's in one of his streaks right now. He's been swinging the bat really well. Hit a couple of home runs in Colorado 2 days ago.
Javier, .290 for the year. The Giants, who have not done well against Traxel. And Baker going with anybody who has done well against him, even close to doing well against him in the past, but also going with his experienced people.
Well, he wanted a true center fielder in there as well, because he has Joe Carter in right field.
Nothing.
Shallow left center. Lance Johnson. 1 away. Wrigley Field, Chicago. And never have the Cubs been involved in one of these in their long history. The closest that the Cubs franchise has ever come to a playoff was 1908. One of the great pennant races of all time in the National League. And they ended up having to play, in essence, a makeup game against the Giants because of the dispute involving Fred Merkle and with Hall of Famer Mordecai Three-Finger Brown on the mound. They beat Hall of Famer Christy Mathewson and went to the World Series. They won that World Series, and Giants fans believed that they should never have gotten there, that they had a game taken away from them unjustly. And there's the way it turned out. The Cubs won it 4-2. They won that World Series. They have never won a World Series since. 90 years it's been. Rich Aurelia, the hitter. Giants shortstop. And the count goes to 2-0. The power comes up next. Barry Bonds on deck. The Giants in the last 2 months have been the highest scoring team in the majors, higher even than the Yankees or the Rangers, the slugging American League teams, and finished the 162 games as the 2nd highest scoring team in the National League.
Yes.
And third got in. Fair ball. Out number 2. Now Barry Bonds. Tremendous year for Bonds. 37 homers, 121 runs batted in, 120 runs scored, hitting over 300. 4th in the league in slugging percentage. And Bonds had 88 extra base hits. 2nd in the league, only behind McGuire, even ahead of Sosa. You added his doubles and triples to the home runs. A fastball for a strike.
Well, the one thing the Giants and the Cubs both have in their favor tonight, they got Bruce Framing behind the plate, a big game umpire and a veteran, which is what you want in this type of game.
You've got the extra umpires for this one too, just like the postseason. A 6-man crew is working.
Yeah.
Beauty. Outside corner, strike 2 call. Jim Riggleman managing the biggest game of his young Major League managerial career. off the fists, and this will come back out of play.
That's a good pitch, and it's an important pitch right there for Traxel for the remainder of the game, to let Barry Bonds know that he will pitch him inside. The first two pitches were away. A lot of teams pitch Barry inside, but they're afraid that if they miss by 6 inches, they'll hit the ball out of the ballpark. But I think early in the ball game, you have to establish to Barry that you will come inside.
Now Bonds backs away. Bonds in 26 career at bats against Traxel has 1 home run and only a .269 average against him. So Traxel has done well with him.
Well, most of the Giants have struggled against him. Only Charlie Hayes and Bonds have had any success. Hayes also hitting .269, but he has 2 home runs against Traxel.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
And they both have the same number at bats. They were both 7 for 26 coming into this ball game.
Jeff Kent would be next. Kent and Bonds, one of the 3rd pair of hitters ever to have 30+ homers and 120+ RBIs for the Giants in the same year in their 116-year history. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Bonds. Traxel really taking a lot of time here. 2-2.
The Cubs feel that sometimes when he does that, takes more and more time, he outthinks himself and doesn't fall into a rhythm.
Tyler Houston, the catcher, drops aside. Struck him out. A great beginning for Steve Traxel. He retires the side in order. The Cubs are coming up. Sosa due up 3rd.
MLB at Home is presented by Roman, the digital health clinic for men and proud partner of Major League Baseball.
Giants nothing, and the Cubs coming up now from Wrigley Field, Chicago. The wind blowing in tonight from right field, which should be good news if you're a pitcher. 9 miles per hour, 69 degrees is the game time temperature. Here's the Cubs batting order now. Lance Johnson, center field. Mickey Morandini, he's been there before with the '93 Phillies, had a fine season. Sammy Sosa, one of the great seasons of all time. Mark Grace at first base. He's been here in the big games before and done extremely well against the Giants. Henry Rodriguez having a great year with the long ball until an injury shut him down. Gary Gaetti, acquired from McGuire's team, the Cardinals, and he just was a key man for the Cubs in the stretch. Tyler Houston, the catcher. Jose Hernandez at short. He finished in a slump but had 23 homers. And Steve Traxel, the pitcher, batting 9th. On the mound for the Giants, 36-year-old veteran Mark Gardner. In many ways, this year, the best year that he's ever put together as a big league starter, and mostly because of a great finish.
Well, he's got all the pitches, and his key has been his control. He's been able to spot the fastball, stay out of the middle of the plate with it. Has an excellent curveball, and he will throw a little cut fastball to the left-handed hitters.
Strike 1 call to Lance Johnson. Now, Gardner in his career has had problems in the first inning, but he seems to have corrected those the last couple of months. Big curveball, and it is 0-2. Gardner with a 6.13 lifetime ERA in the first inning. And when we saw him back in July against Atlanta, he was having those first inning blues. But they made a few changes in his preparation for starts, and he's done well the last couple of months. 1-2. But suffice it to say, part of the history of Gardner, if you're going to get to him, the first inning often is the time to do it.
Yeah!
Rich Aurelia, and there was one away.
And let's take a look at the Giants defensively. Charlie Hayes gets the start tonight at third base. Bill Miller has been starting over there most of the time, especially against right-handers. But as I mentioned, Charlie Hayes has had some success off of Traxel, 2 home runs and 26 at-bats. And he's a veteran.
Here's Mickey Morandini now. He takes a called strike. Mickey Morandini, the veteran, 296 for the year, 8 homers, 53 batted in. And the Cubs have been touting him for the Gold Glove at second base. They think he's been that good defensively. He certainly had an outstanding year with the bat. Curveball. 1 ball and 2 strikes on the foul ball. You know, over the years, Cubs, Joe, we've always seen the Cubs would come in here with a bunch of guys who swing the bat aggressively and very few guys who get walks. Well, Mickey Morandini, 72 walks, excellent on base average. And they've got Mark Grace getting walks, and even Sammy Sosa getting a lot more.
Go!
Left center, base hit. So Morandini is aboard, and Slammin' Sammy is coming up. Sammy said before the game he doesn't figure he'll hit 4 home runs to tie Mark McGwire. Remember, all the statistics tonight count in the regular season statistics. He says, I don't think so in terms of catching McGwire, but he also said, I hope I can hit 2. And so do these Cubs fans. And he has hit 4 homers in his career against Gardner. That ties his record for the most home runs against any one pitcher. Check swing. Back to Gardner. Really one. Back to first. Double play. So bad luck for the Cubs there. He didn't mean to hit it. And they get Sosa without even swinging the bat. No score. The wild card tiebreaker in the National League. Dusty Baker's Giants nothing. Jim Riggleman's Cubs nothing after 1 inning. And the middle of the batting order coming up for the Giants. The divisional series will get underway tomorrow. The Indians and the Red Sox. Pedro Martinez and Jared Wright at 1 o'clock on ESPN. Then the Padres and Astros, and what a matchup at 4 o'clock as Kevin Brown takes on Randy Johnson. And then tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 Pacific on the Fox network, the Texas Rangers versus the New York Yankees. Todd Stottlemyre for Texas, and David Wells will go for the Yanks at Yankee Stadium. So 3 big games to get it started tomorrow. The Atlanta Braves will wait until Wednesday. They'll be playing the winner of this game in Game 1 on Wednesday at Turner Field in Atlanta. Jeff Kent, .299 average. He's never hit 300 in a season. 31 homers, a career record, 127 runs batted in. In fact, both the homers and RBIs career records. And Kent broke a record that has stood for more than 70 years for the Giants for RBIs by a second baseman in a single season, set by Rogers Hornsby. Besides Joe Morgan, the best hitting second baseman in history, most likely.
Tell you what, anytime you break anything that says Rogers Hornsby in front of it, you've done a great job, because he was a special hitter. But Jeff Kent has become a special player in that, I mean, he's the perfect guy to complement Barry Bonds. He's hit behind him, and every time they walk Bonds, he's made him pay for it. That's why Bonds has scored 120 runs.
Come on.
It tracks it. All away. Here now, Joe Carter.
And Joe Carter may be playing his final game in the major leagues. He's said he's going to retire at the end of the season. And what a great player he has been throughout his career. 396 home runs, and just a consummate RBI man. He's been driven in 100 runs, and wherever he's played, doesn't matter about the league or the team.
He started his major league career right here in Chicago. He was a first-round draft choice of the Cubs. Got just a little bit of a look with the Cubs, and then they used him in a big trade back in 1984. Curveball misses. 1 ball, no strikes. It was Carter. It was part of the deal with the Cleveland Indians that brought Rick Sutcliffe here. And of course, Sutcliffe went 16-1 for the Cubs that year in the second half to help him go to the league championship series. Of course, Carter got a chance to play every day in Cleveland. became a star. And Joe, his legacy, I mean, you need a run driven in, he is the man to see. 11 years with over 100 RBIs. On the inside corner. 2-1 now. Joe Carter on Thursday in his final home game with the Giants got several standing ovations at Candlestick Park. Yesterday in what he thought was his final regular season game, standing ovation in Denver. And it is 3-1, and in both ball games he rose to the occasion and hit a home run. So Carter says, let's see, final home game homered. What I thought was the final regular season game, I homered. So I'm going to have to homer tonight at Wrigley Field. 18 homers altogether this year as a part-time player with Baltimore and then with San Francisco. Sosa in right field. That one traveled pretty well. 2 down.
Well, Joe Carter hit that ball very hard to right field. Even though the wind's blowing in, it wasn't a high drive, it was more of a line drive, so he got the carry out of it. On a 3-1 count, Traxel makes a pretty good pitch. He keeps it away from Carter. He goes the other way. And Sammy Sosa had a little trouble with it. I think he felt like the wind was blowing in. It was going to knock it down, but it really didn't.
2 down, nobody on, and here comes JT Snow. Snow is the only player here today who has gone through one of these before. 3 years ago when he was with the Angels, they played the playoff tiebreaker at the Kingdome in Seattle. And of course the Seattle Mariners won that ball game to win the Western Division of the American League. 2 balls and no strikes. So Snow has experienced it, and his memories are certainly not very pleasant. The Angels lost a huge lead that year in the stretch to the Mariners. This year Snow is on the other side of it as the Giants have come from well back here in the late going. Snow has got shoulder tendonitis. He's got a wrist problem, his right wrist, and he is not a switch hitter right now. He'll bat only left-handed, even if the Cubs bring in a left-handed pitcher.
Well, he really has struggled from the right side the last couple of years anyway.
He gets a 4-pitch walk with 2 down, and so Charlie Hayes will come up. First base runner for the Giants against Traxel. I have a feeling she's a Cubs fan, Joe.
Longtime Cub fan. She's seen a lot of good things happen here in Chicago and a lot of things that she'd rather forget. 1969 probably comes to mind first. She remembers Harry Carey, I'm sure, fondly. You see that caricature of Harry.
As Dusty Baker said yesterday after the game in Denver, he says the only thing he is sure that Wrigley Field will be rocking. The only thing is he wished that Harry Carey was going to be there. He figured Harry would be there in spirit. Nonetheless, here's Charlie Hayes. Part of the Giants' depth. Played third base, first base, been an excellent pinch hitter for them. Too far in with the fastball. 1 ball and no strikes. By the way, Charlie Hayes hails from Mississippi originally, and his family, his mom and dad, live in Mississippi. And of course, Mississippi is being threatened by Hurricane George. And Charlie has been unable to make contact with his family down there. He's very worried about them. And he asked us to mention, if they're watching down there, to please call Wrigley Field tonight so he can rest easy to know that they're all right. So the Hayes family down there, give Wrigley Field a call.
Come on.
Well, this inning, Traxel has started to struggle with his control. He fell behind Joe Carter. Carter hit the ball hard, and he's walked JT Snow, and this is what the Cubs are afraid of. If he starts to fall behind, he will definitely get in trouble. And the Giants are swinging the bat very well lately. They've been scoring a lot of runs, and this is not a team that you can throw a lot of 3-1, 2-0 fastballs to and get away with it.
2-0 to Hayes. Snow at first. Good pitch on the outside edge. 2-1.
Tyler Houston sets up over the outside corner, and he gets a good pitch there. Nice pitch by Traxel. But smart hitting by Hayes. I think he was looking for something middle of the plate in that he could drive, and that's what you should be doing when you get the pitcher in the hole 2-0.
Traxel, 27 years of age. Delivers.
Yes.
Well, they put it out there again. This time Hayes wailed away at it and didn't get it. 2-2 the count. Brian Johnson is on deck. A look at third base coach Ron Wotus, who runs through some signs. Cubs outfield pretty much straight away. Grace is on the bag at first, holding against Snow. The panoramic look at how they're playing it. Kind of pinching off the middle of the diamond.
Charlie Hayes used to be almost a dead fastball hitter, but as he's gotten older and adjusted, he has become more of an off-speed hitter. He handles the breaking ball and the off-speed pitches very well. That one's way inside.
You see his numbers. He's had some success against Traxel. Most of the Giants hitters have not done even that well. I mean, Hayes' success is rather modest. Snow is back to the bag. Well, 3-2, 2 down. Snow is not a fast runner, but nonetheless, Mark Grace is going to hold him on the bag over there. Snow runs. Right field, Sosa, and that's the inning. One man left. Mark Grace, Henry Rodriguez, and Gary Gaetti coming up. No score. Giants nothing. Cubs nothing. And the Wrigley Field faithful, yeah. They're hoping that they will not be disappointed. Mark Grace. A strike. He is the only player who played in that 1989 League Championship Series between the Giants and the Cubs. The Giants won it in 5. Almost hit it. And they did not win it because of anything Mark Grace did not do in that series. Grace hit .647 in that 89 playoff.
Good eye.
11 for 17. But not only was he overshadowed by the Giants, who won the series, but by Will Clark. Will Clark gets .650 in that series.
Ooh, yeah.
Down the right field line, that's a base hit.
Neither one of these pitchers have a good enough fastball that they can throw it in the middle of the plate, especially when they get behind in the count. And he was behind 2-1, and Grace sitting on a fastball. He gets the fastball and he rips it to right field. That's not a bad pitch. It's just not a good pitch. It was average, right out, away from him a little bit, but up a little bit, and Grace rips it to right field. You can see they were planting around to right center, so Joe Carter had a long way to go for that ball.
So now Henry Rodriguez, as Grace takes first, he and JT Snow, two of the best fielding first basemen around. Rodriguez 31 homers, just outside. He has not homered, however, since he went down with an ankle injury back on August 24th. He hasn't played that much, actually. Today his first start in 9 days. He and Sosa are having quite a power year in tandem.
Outside.
That's a strike on the outside, perfectly placed.
And that's what Gardner's been able to do. And if you look at Henry Rodriguez, you look at the .249 batting average, 31 home runs, 85 ribbies. That tells you that he really hits mistakes. You make mistakes against him and he will hurt you. But if you pitch to him and keep the ball down, change speeds, you can usually keep him in the ballpark.
Outside. Yeah, good eye.
Just off the outside again. Well, back in August, he had a 2-homer game against the Giants in San Francisco. He made quite a few mistakes against him.
Hey, Harry carries everywhere.
Foul tip. 2-2. combination of Rodriguez and Sammy Sosa hit 97 home runs for the Cubs, which is an all-time Cubs record for a pair of teammates. Of course, Sosa hit most of those.
Ray's really not a threat to run. And in watching the Cubs over the weekend in Houston, they really didn't do a lot of running. They were not a very aggressive ball club. Riggleman said he wasn't going to run into any outs. He wanted to play it straight up.
Go!
High in the air. Right center, Joe Carter. And Grace will go back to first. Rodriguez has not homered since August the 19th.
Well, Henry Rodriguez gets good wood on his pitch. You can see it's trying to tail away. Gardner didn't get it out as far as he wanted, and Rodriguez upset that he missed it because that was a pretty good pitch to hit.
The wind is blowing in from right field. So if you hit it high in the air to right field, even if you hit it well, you might have to hit it a little extra well. He's got the second one. Kent back to first. Double play. Second inning in a row. The Cubs have hit into an inning-ending double play. We go to the third. No score.
Little movement, Reggie!
This Bud's for the Blues, the Reds, and the Warriors. This Bud's for the Giants, the Jazz, and the Magic. This Bud's for the home team.
Wrigley Field, Chicago, the Giants and Cubs playing for the right to go into the National League Division Series against the Atlanta Braves. And the Division Series will get underway tomorrow. Boston and Cleveland at Jacobs Field. Pedro Martinez and Jared Wright at 1 on ESPN. Then Kevin Brown and Randy Johnson matchup at the Astrodome at 4 on ESPN. And finally, on the Fox Network tomorrow night, the Texas Rangers and the New York Yankees. Todd Stottlemyre versus the perfect game pitcher, David Wells. That's 8 Eastern tomorrow night. Well, Dusty Baker said he wishes Harry could be here. He figured he would be in spirit. And it feels like Harry's everywhere you look around Wrigley Field. The legendary former broadcaster of the Cubs. Kind of a sad year for some of our broadcast icons. We lost Harry Carey before the season started, and then during the summer we lost Jack Brickhouse, another Hall of Fame former voice of the Cubs. And both of those former Cubs broadcasters commemorated this year on the Cubs uniforms. Here's Brian Johnson, the 8th place hitter for the Giants. Good pitch to hit there.
Well, I like that. To me, the Giants have to be aggressive. They have to look for a first pitch fastball or look for a pitch in the zone and try to do something with it. The one thing the Giants do not want to do is go late into this ball game, 5th, 6th inning, 1-0 or tie ball game. You have to try to do something aggressively in the first few innings to take the crowd out of the ball game. When you're the road team, that's the toughest part.
Well, so far they've had a hard time even getting somebody on base. The only base runner allowed by Traxel in the first 2 was a 2-out walk to JT Snow in the 2nd inning. Into the upper deck. This is the 9th tiebreaker playoff in Major League Baseball history. There were never any of these kind of tiebreaker playoffs until 1946. As you can see, ordinarily we'd see all the other games in baseball being followed on that out-of-town scoreboard, but there was only the one today. Giants have been in 2 other tiebreaker playoffs in their history. They're both very famous. 1951, after a tremendous comeback against the Dodgers, they went into a 3-game playoff, and in the 3rd game they won on Bobby Thompson's shot heard around the world. 1962, the Giants and Dodgers again. Giants again won in the third game with a 4-run ninth inning at Dodger Stadium. 6-4 winner. Dusty Baker's been in one. You asked him about it before. 1980. The last National League tiebreaker playoff. The Dodgers and the Astros had a one-game set to. The Astros beat Dusty's Dodgers in that one.
Well, I was playing for the Astros that year, and I was kind of the veteran on the ball club. So before the game, my advice to the players was to be aggressive. Let's go out, do something early, and take the crowd out of the game. He took me literally and just beat up on the Dodgers.
Right field, Sosa going back. He's under it. Right in front of the wall.
Now that's one that the wind did affect. He hit that ball really well, and the wind knocked that one down.
Shoot, one down.
He gets good wood on it, good extension, and Sosa started back. It looked like the ball was going farther than it actually ended up, but you could see that the wind is starting to knock it down right about now, and Sosa's able to make the catch on the warning track.
Two gone, rather one gone, and Mark Gardner coming up.
John, the one thing I remember about the 1980 playoff, we went into the clubhouse before the ball game, and you looked around, and some of the guys who had never been there before were, looking a little nervous, like they didn't know what they were doing. And Joaquin Andahar, who was one of the star pitchers, stood up in the middle of the clubhouse. He said, for all you guys that are scared, you should have brought your Doberman with you. But it's too late now, so you got to go out and play. And it kind of broke up the clubhouse. Guys had a laugh and relaxed a little bit, and they did go out and played very well.
And it didn't hurt that Joe Niekro pitched pretty well.
Well, the only problem is you had to use your best pitcher to get into the playoffs. You didn't have him ready for the first game of the playoffs that year.
And that was a great playoff series. The Astros and the Phillies, best of 5. The Phillies won it. Might have been the difference.
I think it definitely made a difference because we couldn't use him 3 games.
Yes.
He's a little bit high.
And he was the best pitcher on the staff at that time.
2-2 to Gardner. 1 out, nobody on. In the third inning.
I also remember that we had lost 3 games in a row to the Dodgers. So the point is that what happened yesterday shouldn't have any bearing and can't. You have to say, hey, it's over, and you start all over again. And that's what these 2 teams have to do today.
Yeah.
Strike 3. Second strikeout for Traxel. 2 down. Well, it wasn't so dramatic this year as 1980. The Giants didn't sweep the Cubs this weekend to get here, but 10 days ago, the Cubs led the Giants by 5 games, and 2 teams were ahead of the Giants. Since then, the Cubs went 2-6. The Giants 8-2. And that created the tie. The Mets lost their last 5 in a row, getting swept by the Braves over the weekend in Atlanta.
And losing 2 in New York to the Montreal Expos.
To me, that was the real killer, even more than the Braves. Javier. That's a foul on the play. The Mets got shut out in the last 17 innings in that 2-game series by the Expos. Tough weekend, though, in Atlanta. I mean, you go in there, and on Saturday, Glavine starts, a 20-game winner. He's relieved by Nagel, a 16-game winner, who in turn was relieved by Millwood, a 17-game winner. First 3 pitchers they used had 53 wins.
Not only that, John, Glavine went out there knowing he didn't have to pace himself. He only was going 5 innings, so he could pitch his 5 innings and act like that's the end of the ball game every time he went out there. So he could give you his extra best stuff, and that's what he did.
And Maddox yesterday, the Mets could not win. Stan Javier, the leadoff man for the Giants. 2 balls and a strike. 2 down, nobody on. The Giants have gotten only 1 man on base against Traxel thus far.
That's been the history of Steve Traxel, John. He will pitch well for 3 innings maybe, but the second or third time through the order, he seems to maybe change his pitching pattern too much or try to go to something different. And if you're a patient team, you can stay with him, and you can usually have some pitches to hit your second or third at bat against him.
Here we go.
Just off the outside. 3-1 to Javier. Rich Aurelia would be next. No score. We're in the 3rd inning.
Javier not known for his power, but he had a 2 home run game in Colorado the other day, and this is a 3-1 pitch that he can turn on if he gets a fastball.
Too low. He gets the walk. That is the second base runner for the Giants, both on walks by Traxel. Javier also can steal a base. 21 steals for the year, second in the club.
He's only been caught 5 times, so good percentage.
Well, what do you think? Dusty Baker trying to have him run here in front of Aurelia?
I definitely think that if he, you put him on his own, if he can get a good jump, he takes off. And I believe if you're the road team, you have to make something happen. You just can't wait back and hope for good things.
Rich Aurelia standing in. Aurelia grounded to third his first time. High and tight for ball 1. Dusty Baker relaying some signs over to third base coach Ron Wotus. Aurelia and Javier give Wotus their attention. Wotus got hit in the jaw, the right side of the jaw, giving a slide signal the other day in Denver at third base. The throw from Larry Walker went right through Vinny Castilla and hit Wotus in the jaw. Spins that one in there for a called strike. Aurelia backs away again, looking at Wotus. I mean, how many options could they have here with 2 down, Joe? Going through all these signs.
Well, it's more habit than anything else.
Second baseman Mickey Morandini way over toward the middle. The right side of the infield is almost wide open for Aurelia with Grace over there on the bag with Javier.
John, you want the hitter to look down at the third base coach, let him go through signs every time, because you do not want him not to look down. You have to yell at him to give him a sign, because everyone in the ballpark will know something's up. So that's why it's important that you look down there after every pitch.
Two balls and a strike. Barry Bonds is on deck. Wotus again. Relaying the signs from Dusty Baker.
It's an important pitch here because it allows the Giants to do anything they want right here. If Javier wants to take off, he knows they're not going to pitch out. If Dusty wants to put a hit and run on, he can do that.
So he should take off then.
Well,
I think Trax will throw it well. Man, do I am.
He's thinking like you are, right?
He's thinking like you are. You explained it for me. After you explained it, then I decided. For both of them. Javier should run, but Traxel should throw. He is not running. 2-2 the count now. Foul ball over the Cubs dugout. Javier, by the way, sat out for a couple of weeks where he did not start a game for the Giants with a strained right hip flexor muscle. So he was not at full capability. Somebody got a souvenir almost.
Well, he made a dive. He kept it on the infield.
Kept it on the infield. There goes Javier. Strike 3 call. Javier's in there, but it doesn't matter. Aurelia has been called out on strikes. Bonds will have to wait an inning. Tyler Houston coming up, no score. Giants nothing, Cubs nothing. Last of the third inning. John Miller, Joe Morgan here with you on the eve of the American and National League Divisional Series, which begin tomorrow in most cases.
Really storage and moving.
That's a look out of the bleachers in front of that
Careful movers at your Allied agents.
old-time hand-operated scoreboard at Wrigley Field.
You like those things, don't you?
I'm into it.
Oh, okay.
Everybody should have a hand-operated scoreboard.
Oh.
With all of the scores from out of town being posted at all times. It's in the handbook, Joe. Build a new stadium, need an out-of-town scoreboard.
It's all right. I don't mind him punching the computer and throwing it up there very quickly.
There's strike 1 to Tyler Houston.
I think this is a very important inning for Gardner if he can get the Cubs out quickly, because the Giants have Kent and Bonds coming up the next inning, and he has struggled a little bit. He's been getting runners on, but he's been able to get the ground ball to get out of the innings. But it's important for him just to establish that he's in control of this ball game.
Misses with a curveball there. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Tyler Houston. Jose Hernandez and Steve Traxel will follow. 2-2. Mark Gardner out of Fresno State University, and last year in the stretch run he really did not pitch at all for the Giants. His wife Lori had a life-threatening attack. That ball is driven deep. Javier back in the wall, makes the catch against the ivy and hangs on to it.
Well, that pays dividends right there, because Marvin Bernard's a little lot shorter than Stan Javier, and that may have been a more difficult play for him. But the other reason that Javier is a true center fielder, whereas Bernard is actually a corner guy. He's a left fielder or a right fielder. 2 balls, 2 strikes, fastball against the middle of the plate. You can see Brian Johnson set up outside. Now watch, Javier being taller than Marvin Bernard, it's not as difficult to play, but a good play there by Stan.
Jose Hernandez now. 1 ball, no strikes. Hernandez had 23 home runs for the Cubs this year. Finished the year in a slump, though. That's a called strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. But Gardner's wife Lori actually had a very complicated transplant surgery, liver transplant surgery, and she survived. Is doing very well, and the Gardner family as a whole, we're glad to report, doing extremely well. And Mark Gardner, unlike last year, pitching down the stretch for the Giants and leading their staff.
Yes.
3-1. The pitcher, Traxel, is on deck. Hernandez finished the year in a horrible slump. His last 84 at bats, hit only 155. But he gets a walk here. First walk allowed by Gardner. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. Steve Traxel.
This is where the defense at first base of Jack Schnoes comes into play, John, because as a pitcher, he'll be trying to bunt the ball to first base, and JT is very good at coming in and getting the lead runner on a bunt. JT,
Yeah.
well, father Jack, named after his father.
Giving Jack Snow a little publicity there.
Yeah, wide receiver, former wide receiver for the Rams.
He's a broadcaster now.
Yeah, for the Rams.
The bunt. JT can't cover. And Hernandez becomes the first runner of this game to get the scoring position.
Excellent bunt there by Steve Traxel, and a lot of times pitchers aren't able to get that bunt down and help themselves. Excellent bunt. Watch, he just lays the bat out there, catches the ball on the barrel of the bat, and guides it to first base. Good job. John, Lance Johnson, one of the smallest players stature-wise in the major leagues, not very big boned or anything, uses a 40-ounce bat. That's what he swings.
Curveball for a strike.
In this day and age, when most players are using 31s, 32s, he's up to 40 ounces. Like the Babe Ruth and the guys used to swing those. Willie Stargell, Clemente used the real heavy bats.
0-1 the count. Fastball. 0-2. Well, Lance Johnson, when we were here 8 days ago on Sammy Sosa Day, Sammy did not hit a home run, but Lance Johnson did. Finished with 2 home runs in 300. Well, he's not finished yet. He got 2 in 300 at bats right now. Curveball. And that is the inning. We have played 3 scoreless innings. The tension builds a little bit. Bonds, Kent, and Carter coming up. No score.
We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day.
The winner goes into the division series. The loser goes home. 1 game, winner take all. The Giants and Cubs scoreless as we head to the 4th inning. Now, coming up this Friday at 8 Eastern on ESPN2 is the premiere of Friday Night Fights. Andrew Galata versus Tim Weatherspoon, the main event. Muhammad Ali will be featured in the classic fight segment. Ryan Kenny and Max Kellerman host the most comprehensive boxing show on television. ESPN2 Friday Night Fights. Well, this place was just raucous and loud as the game was beginning, Joe, but right now a little more tense as Barry Bonds strides to the plate.
And let's take a look at how he pitched Bonds in the first inning. I said the fastball right there was very important because he ends up throwing him a changeup down and away. And because Bonds has to be aware of the inside pitch, he can't go out over the plate looking for the off-speed pitch, even though he knows that's what Traxler's going to try to do. But if you come inside on a hitter and make him inside conscious, it opens up the outside for you. But Bonds makes adjustments too.
That is foul. Got the breaking ball up and in and shot it foul. Bonds, as you saw, hit over 400 in September, or has up till now. 7 homers and 21 RBIs in the month. Both he and Kent have driven in more than a run per game since the end of July.
I don't care what you think about his personality or anything else. He is a great player.
To the screen, and quickly he's behind in the count, 0-2.
I mean, for a guy to hit over 400 home runs and steal over 400 bases, that is special, speed and power. And he's the only one in the history of the game to ever do that. And we've had a lot of great players play this game, and no one has ever been able to put those stats on the board. Plus, he has 3 most valuable player awards.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
And they don't give those away. You have to earn them.
Well, I mean, he's the whole package. Offense, he can steal a base. He has 28 steals. And a perennial Gold Glove outfielder. Tries to sneak it over that inside edge, but too far in. 2-2. And of course, Sammy Sosa. You want to talk about the whole package?
And this year, John, he's been better defensively than ever before. His entire game has just picked up. Not just the home run production, but his everything for Sammy picked up this year.
Throws it out.
You see what Traxler is doing. He is just continuing to make Bonds aware of the inside corner, yet he's getting him out away. The pitch before, he came inside hard. Now look at this. He goes back away, tailing away. Nothing Bonds can do with it because you have to protect the inside. And he goes away. All you can do is swing with your arms. Look at that. All Bonds can do is go the other way. And not much of a threat there. So he's keeping Barry off balance just with the inside pitch.
Jeff Kent, 63 RBIs in the last 54 games for Kent. That kind of play. He not only broke Rogers Hornsby's franchise record for RBIs in a season by a second baseman, he missed 24 consecutive games on the disabled list and was able to do that. Joe, you always have these people stopping by to see you.
Well, I've made some good friends over the years.
We saw Michael Jordan. He threw out the first ball. Joe's close personal friend, and now the Reverend Jesse Jackson just came by.
Another close personal friend.
Traxler. That's a strike. Kent tried to check. And it's 0-2. This must be a big game.
It must be a big game. You're right.
To the count to Kent. Joe Carter on deck.
Right there. Yeah.
Just off the outside of the curveball, and it is 1-2.
The way Traxler's pitching right now, John, is surprising that he pitched poorly in his last 5 starts. He's not missing into the middle of the plate. Anytime he misses with his pitches, you know, they're unhittable. They're off the plate outside or inside.
That was off the plate inside.
Yeah.
Off the plate and on the hip. So Kent hit by the pitch.
Well, you see what he's doing. He's moving the ball around. He went away the pitch before. Now he's trying to come inside corner with a fastball, but it gets away from him, and he hits Kent in the hip. But that's what he's doing so well so far tonight. He's moving the ball in, out, and changing speeds.
So the Giants get a base runner with less than 2 outs for the first time. I mean, it's been kind of meager for the Giants in terms of anything offensively. Joe Carter now, he lined one hard to right field his first time. He's 0 for 1.
He fell behind Carter, and Carter really hit a fastball hard.
A strike, slider over the outside. Kent at first. Kent was wearing a brace on his right knee. He hyperextended that knee earlier this year, back in June. Alex Rodriguez in an interleague game hit him hard, trying to break up a double play. That's why he missed the 24 consecutive games. And he's had to wear that brace ever since. It's back to the bag. Nonetheless, Carter, or rather Kent, has stolen 9 bases. So if you don't keep a close eye on him, he might go. The outfield around toward left against Joe Carter. Joe Carter had 29 runs batted in for the Giants, or has. I keep thinking this is a postseason game. It counts in the regular season. 29 RBIs and only 102 at bats. Look what he did in September. One ball, one strike to Carter. Joe Carter, the only man in World Series history to hit a home run to end the World Series when his team was trailing at the moment that he hit it.
Bill Mazeroski hit one, but they were tied with the Yankees.
Those are the only 2 to win the World Series with a home run, and Carter's the only one with his team behind, and will forever be remembered for that. But what I remember for Joe is the fact that he was just so good in the clutch, not just then, but all the time. Well, Traxel, and one of the things that they've complained about with Traxel over the years is that he won't pitch inside enough.
Well, he's pitching inside now, but the ball is getting away. And maybe that's the problem, John. It's difficult to pitch inside. Everyone can't pitch inside. You know, a lot of guys want to throw the ball inside, and then they're afraid to hit the hitter, and it moves out over the plate. Or they miss badly inside. It doesn't do you any good to try to pitch inside if you're missing by a foot. There you see the Cubs pitching coach. But one other thing to remember, John, you talk about the wind blowing in. It doesn't matter if Joe Carter hits it toward left field. Left field, the ball will still carry here. The only place that the wind will knock the ball down is in right field. But again, a lot of pitchers just cannot pitch inside consistently.
Well, he had Kent in a hole at 2 strikes, and he hit him. He almost hit Carter. It's 2-1 now to Carter. And he's fouled. 2-2. Carter lunging for a breaking ball. 2 balls, 2 strikes. 4th inning, no score. Ron Wotus again flashing some signs to Carter. The only Giant who's been able to actually pull the ball so far, Rich Aurelian. In the first inning, hit a ground ball to third. Everybody else, when they've hit the ball, have hit it the other way. As you mentioned, Joe, you pointed it out a couple of times. Because Tapani has him thinking about that inside pitch. Deep down the left field line, hooking into the corner. This one is foul.
That pitch was up a little bit.
That was a screamer.
Pitch is up and over the middle of the plate, but Joe Carter is pretty much a hands hitter, and every once in a while he just rolls that top hand and he pulls a lot of balls foul.
355 feet to the foul pole in left field. 353 to the right field foul pole, but the power alley is much shallower than most. 2-2 to Carter. JT Snow on deck. The split-fingered pitch down and away. He uses that as his changeup. Full count, 3-2.
Well, we'll see if Dusty Baker wants to send Jeff Kent in this situation. Carter and everyone's taking a look.
Well, I'm taking my cue from you, Joe, so I think he's running.
Well, base runners are 8 for 16, which is, 50-50 chance against Steve Traxel. Again, I believe if you're the road team, you have to be aggressive. You have to be more aggressive. So I say yes, he should be going as well. But Dusty Baker's the manager, and he's gotten them to the playoffs. Man, you didn't do that.
He's running. And a check swing by Carter. Ball in the dirt. Ball 4. So Kent to second, Carter to first. On the walk, the Giants have 2 men on for the first time, and yet they do not yet have a hit against Traxel. Houston out there to talk to Traxel. Remember, this started when he had Kent in a hole. He had him 1 ball and 2 strikes, and then he hit him trying to go inside.
And that's after pitching so well to Barry Bonds.
JT Snow. This has been a year where JT's emotions have been torn. His mother, after a courageous battle with cancer, passed away. And JT, for a long time, had his attentions elsewhere. Strike to the outside. He's had some injury problems as well. But nonetheless, has put up 15 homers and 79 runs batted in. Crowd very quiet, very tense right now. This has started out as one of those real tense pitchers battles. The splitter right to Grace. That makes it 2 down. Charlie Hayes coming up. Into third, Carter to second.
A little surprised that Grace was playing that deep because he got the ground ball and didn't have a chance to, to go for the double play. Normally, in a double play situation, you play shallow enough that you can, start a double play. Because in that situation, you have to give up something, some range to get something, trying to get the double play to get out of the inning.
So is that, it's like you say, you were there yesterday, and Jim Riggleman is trying to play it real close to the vest. He's trying really not to take chances.
Well, that's what it appears to me, but
it's his call, right?
Yeah, you got the ground ball, and you didn't even have a chance to get the lead runner.
Wasn't even an option. Here's Charlie Hayes. Pitch up, out over the plate, but back to the screen. It's 0-1. Yesterday, in their loss at Houston, he went with Terry Mulholland at Riggleman. Mulholland pitched just a great game, a courageous game, but lost a 3-1 lead in the 8th inning with the Astros' best right-handed sluggers up there, and then used Rod Beck out of the bullpen for 2 2/3 innings. Did not have much confidence in anybody else in his bullpen right now. In the dirt, saved by Houston. Keeps Kent at third base in a scoreless game. 1-1 to Charlie Hayes.
Well, what Houston does here is just puts his body in front of it. He doesn't really try to catch the ball. You see, he throws his hands open so it won't get caught up in there. But all you do is try to get your body in front of you. You do not really try to catch the ball, just block it.
1 ball, 1 strike to Charlie Hayes. Kent at third, Carter at second, both ready to go on anything with 2 down. The splitter, and it misses low. 2-1 now. But he's got first base open. He didn't have to give it to Charlie Hayes, and the man behind him, Brian Johnson, has never had success with Traxel. Hayes has had his moments against Traxel.
Brian Johnson has been swinging the bat well lately, John, so you have to stop it someplace.
So if he ends up walking Hayes, he's taking a risk.
Exactly, because then he doesn't have any margin for error. If he gets behind Brian Johnson, he has to give in.
2 balls and a strike. 2 on, 2 out. 3-1. Well, he wanted that one. And the Wrigley Field faithful wanted it. 3-1 the count.
Well, he got Hayes to chase one up and away in his first at bat. He tried it once more, and Hayes didn't bite.
Nothing to nothing. The Giants do not yet have a hit against Steve Traxel. This will be the 22nd pitch of this inning for Traxel. Yeah. The splitter. Strike 2.
Well, you like a guy to want to hit in this situation, but you do not want him to chase pitches out of the strike zone like that.
And as one, the 40,000 plus at Wrigley Field rising to their feet with 2 strikes and 2 out. 2 on for the Giants. Now Traxel himself diffuses the crowd. There's Kent at third. Carter at second. Traxel still hasn't gotten the sign that he wants, and Hayes is getting frustrated at the plate.
Well, I don't know if he wants to throw the pitch at all.
Houston's going to go out, so they've been having a long distance argument there between the mound and home plate.
Well, you see a lot of pitchers now covering their mouth with their glove because a lot of times you can read their lips.
Well, a famous
on deck circle, because that's what Will Clark did when he was facing the Cubs here in the '89 playoffs. He read the lips of Greg Maddux, say he's going with the fastball.
Don Zimmer went out. Will Clark then stepped in and hit a grand slam against Maddux. Right here. 3-2 to Hayes. The splitter in the dirt. Ball 4, and now the bases are loaded, and he will have to face Johnson. And Johnson did make very hard contact on a ball that got knocked down by the wind back in the 3rd inning to right field. And here comes Phil Regan, the pitching coach, out to the mound. So we got our first real crisis point in this game now.
Well, if you're Brian Johnson in this situation, you walk to the plate and you say, well, I'm going to sit on a fastball. He's missing with everything else. I'm going to sit on a fastball in a certain location, and I'm going to try to drive the ball, get a base hit to drive in these runs. If he throws a curveball or something else, you go ahead and take it, because it's imperative that he gets out in front of you, or you can just sit on pitches. So the first pitch, in my opinion, is always the most important pitch in a bases loaded situation like this.
Brian Johnson, former quarterback from Stanford University, 13 home runs for the year. 3 men on, 2 men out. The Giants and Cubs scoreless. The Giants yet without a hit.
Yeah.
Starts him with a curve.
And that's okay. If you're Brian Johnson, say, okay, I give him that. But if he misses with that pitch, then you've got 2 pitches to play with. So what you do as a hitter is put yourself in the best possible hitting situation you can get. And I believe that was sitting there looking for a fastball on the first pitch.
So give Traxel credit, just a great pitch.
Yeah, it's only 1 strike.
He executed. Kent at third, Carter at second, Hayes at first, as you saw. 2 down.
Yes.
Up too high. 1 ball, 1 strike. I guess it was a split-fingered pitch, but it didn't get it where he wanted it.
I really think he tried to throw another curveball, John. He just threw it too hard. I think he tried to come with the same pitch and threw it too hard.
1 ball, 1 strike to Brian Johnson. And yeah, it's nail-biting time here at Wrigley in the 4th inning. In the dirt.
Come on now.
See, now if I'm Brian Johnson, I'm back in that same situation. I'm sitting dead red here, looking for another fastball that I can drive someplace. If he throws me a curveball and he throws a strike, so what? He's got to do it again.
So it's real risky now to throw anything but the fastball.
So you've got to sit there and say, I'm going to look for a fastball.
So he's not thrown one yet to Johnson in this at bat.
But you can't chase it out of the strike zone. You just have to sit and say, I'm going to look for a fastball right in a certain zone.
Kent, Carter, and Hayes, the 3 runners. 2 down, 4th inning. Now, again, with Traxel taking an extreme amount of time. I mean, he and Houston act like they've never even met each other. I mean, whatever Houston's calling for, Traxel never seems to want to throw it. 2-1 the count.
Yes.
Well, he sit on the fastball, looked like a little up a little bit, but at least he was aggressive. He got the pitch he wanted. He just didn't hit it.
Cubs fans rise to their feet all around Wrigley Field again. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 down, and 3 men on.
Well, now if you're Brian Johnson, you just have to hit the ball. See the ball, hit the ball. You can't really sit there and say, I'm going to sit dead fastball or look for a splitter.
So he could
have to see the ball.
He could try that splitter out.
Right. You have to see the ball and go after it.
The curve, strike 3 call. The Giants leave the bases loaded. Traxel throw. Sosa coming up. In the friendly confines of Wrigley Field, the wild card berth at stake. No score yet.
There's a high fastball that he got, but it was out of the strike zone. And then Traxel just makes a great pitch. But when you get 2 strikes on you, you can no longer look for a pitch. You have to see the ball and go after it. But he made a good pitch.
Now Gardner to Morandini, who singled his first time, and a curveball for a strike. Gardner sat a good long while there while Traxel not only threw a lot of pitches, but took interminable lengths of time between pitches. Sammy Sosa is on deck.
This is an important part here again for Mark Gardner. If he can go 1, 2, 3 and get him right back out there for Traxel, make Traxel go right back to work, then without having him sit there and be able to relax for a while, everything will work in the Giants' favor.
Traxel hoping for a little time off now. 2 strikes to Morandini. Just off the outside. Sammy Sosa on deck, then Mark Grace. So they'd like to see Morandini get aboard here in front of the big guys. This is the guy who's been getting it done all year long. Sammy Sosa. Curve misses. Sammy Sosa, surely the MVP in the National League.
Well, if I had a vote, I would give it to him, although there have been a lot of great seasons this year in the National League. Greg Vaughn in San Diego, Lou and Bagwell and Biggio and Bell in Houston.
Outside!
He had a 1-2, now it is 3-2. That's Morandini. I mean, he is a very discerning hitter at the plate, and he'll make a pitcher throw a lot of pitches. He will take a walk. Out of play.
And of course, Mark McGwire has had the best, season of his career and the most popular season. I mean, I think he's player of the year, but the MVP and the player of the year, in my opinion, are 2 different people, or can be 2 different people.
And even McGwire has said, hey, Sammy Sosa's got to get the MVP.
Yeah!
Left field. Bonds with room in the corner. It's the big part of left field. So 1 gone, and now Sammy Sosa. Hasn't been the custom with McGwire and Sosa. The crowd rises to its feet as Sammy comes to the plate.
And the umpires have to wait for a new batch of balls. Talking to Billy Williams a week or so ago, he said the big difference in Sammy Sosa this year, one of the things he did, he moved off the plate and lowered his hands. He used to have his hands up real high. He moved off the plate, lowered his hands, and he thinks that gives him a better view of the plate, of the pitch. He can read the pitch better rather than being close to the plate, worried about the inside pitch. He used to chase a lot of pitches out of the strike zone. He doesn't do that nearly as much now.
And it's 2-0. Sosa used to go up there and just hack, and you could get him out swinging at bad balls. But this year, he's hit over 300 all season long. But also, 3 of his home runs the whole year come on the first pitch. McGwire, by contrast, had 12 on the first pitch. Well, a little over anxious there.
Well, but he's aggressive, and you say to yourself, hey, I'm up here, I'm the big guy, I've got to swing the bat. That one he couldn't do much with, but it's still 2 balls and 1 strike. You know what I mean? You were hitting the count. So you had a foul to take.
Free swing.
Yeah, you had 1 foul to take there, so he took it.
Mark Grace on deck. No score, 4th inning. 66 home runs, Sammy Sosa at the plate.
He didn't have a foul to take there. That was a bad pitch up and in, and not much he could do with it, even if he hit it. Watch this. You see the setup. I mean, Mark Gardner misses by about 3 feet. Brian Johnson set up low and away, and that pitch is up and in. And that's the problem that we see a lot of pitchers have. They're trying to make perfect pitches on McGwire and Sosa, and they make mistakes in doing so. Trying to be perfect.
2-2. The curve for the strikeout. And suddenly, silence at Wrigley Field.
Mighty Casey has struck out.
Slam in center.
Because, I mean, all the air went out of this place then.
I mean, it was incredible. This cacophony of sound is silence, just like that.
Well, that's a beautiful pitch. I mean, that curveball just disappeared. It looked like it was going to be a pretty good pitch to hit, but all of a sudden, the bottom fell out of it.
Well, Gardner's got a great curveball, and that was as good as you'll see.
And that was his first strikeout. Good time to get it.
Now Mark Grace. He singled to right his first time. 2 down, nobody on. On the outside for a strike. Grace didn't think so. Nose scored. 4th inning. The Cubs have 2 hits. But have hit into 2 double plays. Gardner has walked 1. Cubs have left 1 man on. The Giants have had no hits against Traxel. Traxel has walked 4 and he hit a batter. Popped up. Charlie Hayes over against the railing. Just enough room. Well, he did retire the side in order. And Traxel's got to get right back out there. Gardner, Javier, and Aurelia coming up. No score.
MLB at Home is presented by Roman, the digital health clinic for men and proud partner of Major League Baseball.
Giants nothing, Cubs nothing. Darkness has long since settled in over Chicago. One team will go home for a long winter's rest, and one will head to Atlanta after this game. And we have gone real far from deciding anything up till now. No score. 5th inning. The Giants have had the game's only serious threat, getting the bases loaded in the 4th. Mark Gardner against his counterpart, Steve Traxel, and there is ball 1. Traxel, in his previous start in Milwaukee last Wednesday, was breezing along. He had a 7-0 lead and a shutout for 6 innings. But then the Brewers scored 4 runs in the 7th against him, knocking him from the box in a game that finally the Cubs lost on the drop fly ball by Brant Brown, 8-7. That was a crusher. Fouled away by Gardner. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
We all know that Brant Brown dropped that ball that day, John. But one other thing that happened in the 9th inning is that Jim Riggleman chose to walk Larry Burnitz and put the winning run on base. And that was the run that scored when Brown dropped the ball.
Jeremy Burnitz scored all the way from first, running hard.
And, you know, a lot of people say, well, it was the right thing to do, and it probably is. But there are reasons that you don't put the winning run on base a lot of times, because things can happen.
Here we go.
Strike 3 call. So Gardner struck out twice. 1 gone for San Francisco in the 5th. And leadoff man Stan Javier coming up.
Well, Traxel has made some excellent pitches, especially with 2 strikes. He's been able to spot that fastball on the outside corner, as he does here with Gardner, and he's also been able to throw the curveball on the outside corner. So he has been able to make big pitches when he's needed them. You can see the difference in the pitchers, though. Traxel throwing a lot more pitches than Gardner has.
Quite a few more. Traxel threw 29 pitches in that 4th inning, but he got through it. The Giants have not scored, and they do not have a hit against him. Javier has flied out and walked. And it's ball 1 to Stan Javier. A veteran, excellent outfielder, can steal a base. Ended up being the Giants' regular right fielder for the second half of last season. Shows bunt, takes a ball, and it is 2-0. Barry Bonds has not yet come to bat with anybody on base, and neither has Jeff Kent. When you talk about shutting down the Giants, that's a good way to do it.
If you can pitch to them from the windup, you're in a lot better position than trying to throw from the stretch.
3-0. He has walked 4 and hit 1 in the first 4 innings of this game. Cubs have everybody on alert tonight. Kevin Tapani, who was their ace starter this year, is in the bullpen if needed. And it's 3-1. Tapani, a 19-game winner. And if necessary, he might even be the right-handed setup man for Rod Beck. Rod Beck, who threw 36 pitches yesterday and 24 the day before. But they figure that they can give him an inning, or that he can give them an inning if needed. It's a walk for Javier. That is walk number 5 by Traxel. And Houston and Traxel will talk as Phil Regan and Jim Riggleman looking rather tight-lipped right now, as you might expect.
Well, one thing that the Cubs do know, and that is that Javier had that base stolen the last time up when Aurelia took strike 3, so they have to be more aware of him this time than before, because Javier also knows that he can make it now.
Javier had 21 steals during the season, or has during the season. This is a regular season game. Rich Aurelia has grounded a third and struck out looking.
The reason I knew it was a regular season game, John, I went in the Giants clubhouse before the ball game and they were filling out the pass list. Players still get free passes. You do not get those in the divisional playoffs, the LCS, and the World Series. You have to pay for those extra tickets.
Starting tomorrow, it's a new season. Almost hit it. 1 ball, no strikes.
Now here's the situation again. If you're Dusty and you want to hit and run, this is the pitch to do it on. But Traxel has been a little erratic for the hit and run, meaning that he's missed badly with a lot of pitches. Like the last pitch, you do not want to hit and run when a guy is not consistently in the strike zone. But if you're Javier at first base and you get the hit and run, you should still try to steal the base.
Barry Bonds on deck. I mean, you'd like to stay out of the double play so as to give Bonds a chance here with somebody on base.
Well, Javier wasn't sure of the sign, so he steps out and he's asked for it again. He talked to the first base coach. Now he's getting the signs all over again.
Ron Wotus flashing the signs from the third base coach's box. Aurelia now stands back in. 1 ball and no strikes to count.
I don't think anything is on now. When that happens, usually a manager, even if he had a sign on, he will take it off.
That's foul right past Wotus. 1 ball, 1 strike. The stands at Wrigley Field out very close to the field, especially in the corners. 1 ball, 1 strike to count. There's the panoramic look. This old ballpark. The Cubs moved in here 1916. It was built actually for another league, a third major league that was in existence only a couple of years, the Federal League. So, Joe, this is actually the last Federal League ballpark in existence.
And the oldest in the National League.
And we hope that 50 years from now we can still say the same thing. Because it's a great place to come. But the fans here, we usually refer to this as the friendly confines, are on edge right now. No score, 5th inning. It's high and foul, and will go out of play on the third base side. 1 ball and 2 strikes. The wind blowing in from right and blew that one all the way back into the upper deck.
Sometimes as a manager, you think about a couple of things in this situation. First, you say, well, I've got Javier at first, but if Aurelia doesn't hit in a double play, Barry Bonds is going to be able to hit in this inning. If I get Javier thrown out trying to steal or hit and run and he swings and misses, Barry has to lead off the next inning, and you want Barry to hit with runners on if you can.
So
that, I mean, that's something you think about. I still think that you have to be aggressive, but you know, those are things you have to think about.
In the dirt and blocked by Houston, but Javier was not going anywhere. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out, 1 on. Well, this is the count that Javier took off on back in the 3rd inning and actually had it stolen, but the pitch had been called strike 3 to Aurelia.
So are you predicting he's going again?
I'm just for the benefit of our viewers, Joe,
okay,
so that they might make an informed prediction, pointing that out.
All right.
He's running. 2-2 the count. Aurelia backing away as again Traxel and Houston are having a pitch calling debating society here. Traxel has not given up a hit. Javier is back. Well, Jim Riggleman remembers that Javier ran in this count the last time, and surely he asked Traxel to make that throw.
Aurelia steps out again and looks down at Wotus and says, well, is he running or not?
And it really steps out. I mean, he stepped halfway over to the fungo circle that time. 2-2 the count. Javier, rather short lead. He's running high in the air into right center field. The wind will knock that one down. Sosa. Two down, and Barry Bonds coming up.
Well, we've seen how Traxel has pitched Barry the first couple of times up. He threw him fastball in the first time up, and then a changeup away. Here's the fastball in, then a pitch or so.
Two down. Javier at first.
Man, you got a pitch to hit. Maybe a little bit up in the zone, but fastball out over the middle of the plate. I don't think you will see Javier run now. I don't think he will run unless Barry gets behind in the count, maybe gets 2 strikes or something. Then you might see him run.
Bonds has been hot all September and hot this year at Wrigley Field. The Giants nothing. The Cubs nothing in the 5th. Javier at first. Nice pitch. Strike 2 call.
That's another very important pitch. Now he's 0-2 as he throws pitch right on the outside corner. Now he's 0-2, and Barry knows that he has pitched him inside. And if you're Traxel, truthfully, you should waste one inside just to remind him again.
And we'll keep an eye on Javier now. The count has gone to 2 strikes on Bonds.
And this is a time that, you know, with a guy like Barry up there, 2 strikes behind the count, you can go ahead and take off.
So the entire crowd on its feet now with 2 strikes. Popped up. Foul. Gaetti's got room. The sign is retired. So Traxel has handled Bonds. Rodriguez, Gaetti, and Houston coming up. Still scoreless. A playoff for the right to win the National League wildcard berth. The Giants nothing. The Cubs nothing as we move to the last of the 5th inning at Wrigley Field, Chicago. The Reverend Jesse Jackson here tonight. He stopped by the booth to say hello to my partner, Joe Morgan. He is here to help Sammy Sosa collect things and collect funds for the relief effort in Sammy's home country, the Dominican Republic, ravaged by the Hurricane George. Here is Henry Rodriguez. That curveball misses from Mark Gardner. 1 ball, no strikes.
John, on Saturday night, Sammy Sosa, Jose Hernandez, and Henry Rodriguez went out and helped them load trucks. They were going to be sent over, you know, to help the people in Dominican Republic. And they had the final game yesterday. They did that on Saturday night and played yesterday afternoon in their final road game of the season.
3-0 to Rodriguez. Gary Gaetti on deck. Well, the Reverend Jackson said that if you'd like to support the Sammy Sosa Foundation, which is heading up this effort to send relief items to the Dominican Republic, you can call Wrigley Field and they'll give you the information on how to do it. I had a feeling Rodriguez was taken all the way on that one, Joe. 3-1 the count.
Well, I'm not so sure that he should have been.
Right center field. Javier. Base hit. Good job by Javier to hold him to a single. Henry Rodriguez gets the Cubs' 3rd hit.
Well, Rodriguez, along with Sammy Sosa, is really your power hitters on this ball club. And a lot of times you let a guy turn a guy loose 3-0. He actually had a better hit 3-0 than he did pitch to hit than he had 3-1. Good job by Stan Javier to hold him to a single.
Here's Gaetti. He grinded into a double play his first time. Strike on the outside.
And one of the things you have to remember with Rodriguez, he doesn't run that well. So the fact that he's on first base, you know, to get if he would have gotten a walk, would not have been that big a deal.
Snow on the bag with Rodriguez. The middle infield double play depth against Gaetti. Strike 2 on the inside. And he goes back to talk to Bruce Fleming about it. We're at Wrigley Field, Chicago. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. The Giants and the Cubs in a playoff to determine which one will secure the wild card berth in the National League Division Series. The winner will go to Atlanta to face the Braves starting Wednesday. No score, 5th inning. There's a high drive deep into left center. Bonds back at the wall. Gone! 2-0 Chicago.
Said this is a small ballpark, and if you hit the ball in left field, even with the wind blowing in, it will still go out.
Gary Gaetti with his 8th home run as a Cub. In 126 at bats, he has just been a great presence in that lineup since coming over from the Cardinals.
John, this is really just a mistake that you cannot make if you're a veteran pitcher on an 0-2 pitch. No balls and 2 strikes. You try to get him to chase something, but watch where this pitch is. Right in the middle of the plate, bell tied. You cannot make a mistake like that with no balls and 2 strikes on you. And if you hit it well to left field, it will still go out here in Wrigley Field, even with the wind blowing in. And that goes around about 6 rows deep, and the Cubs have a 2-0 lead.
And that's the look in the dugout as they saw it on its way. They were hoping, and then it landed in the bleachers. Relieve some of that tension for the Cubs. They have scored first, and Mark Gardner, knowing he made a mistake, that is Gary Gaetti's wife.
And the delay is because the Cubs fans got excited and they had to clean up some of the debris in the outfield.
So the ground screw out to clean up the outfield. And the fans start to chant Gary, and he comes up to take a bow. So the first big hit of the game comes from the Cubs for the 40-year-old Gary Gaetti. Here's Tyler Houston. He hits a high fly ball, but that will stay in the ballpark. Stan Javier in left center, and that is the first out of the 5th inning. Well, not only did he give up the home run, then Gardner had to wait around for 2 or 3 minutes while they cleaned up the outfield. Gary Gaetti with his 362nd career home run. Had a big hit in Houston over the weekend, a 2-run double against the Astros. And he's just been getting big hits. I mean, he just has been a tremendous addition to this club.
Well, Gary has been in big game situations before with the Twins. And
curveball to Jose Hernandez for a strike. Gaetti has been through it all over the years. made a trade just before the trading deadline with Texas acquiring young third baseman Fernando Tatis, and they were out of the race anyway, so they put Gaetti on release waivers. That's a swinging strike 2. 2-2, and which gave them 10 days to either release him or trade him. And during that time, the Cubs were able to secure him. And then McPhail, the president, who of course had Gaetti when he was the general manager in Houston, in Minnesota, rather. 3-2 the count. So Gary Gaetti, who homered in the first game he ever played at the Metrodome with the Twins, and now he homers the first time he's ever played in a tiebreaker playoff. And that is strike 3 call to the inside corner. Out number 2. And Traxel, the pitcher, coming up. Hasn't really been pretty for Traxel, but he's retired Barry Bonds 3 times consecutively. That's certainly been a key for him.
I think he's actually really frustrated Bonds tonight.
Strike 1. Traxel's also a pretty good hitter. A .270 batting average. 17 hits in 63 at bats, 3 doubles and a home run. Very good hitter. 1 ball, 1 strike. The Cubs have gone ahead 2-0 in the 5th inning, and the Giants, who had to play from behind these last 10 days, now in this tiebreaker playoff have to play from behind. 2-1 the count to Traxel. 2 down, nobody on. 2 runs in. The Cubs using their favorite weapon of the year, the home run.
There it goes.
Javier into shallow center. But 2 runs on the board for the Chicago Cubs. Jeff Kent, Joe Carter, and J.T. Snow coming up. 2-0 Cubs. Cubs 2, Giants nothing. The late Harry Carey, they've often felt has been somehow lingering over the proceedings in absentia, and that although Harry is not present in body, that he is in spirit, and the Cubs are now leading with Harry hovering out there over Wakeland Avenue. 2-0 Chicago. By the way, we had mentioned the story that Charlie Hayes of the Giants had not been able to contact his parents down in Mississippi, where Hurricane George going through the Gulf Coast. He was very concerned about that, and he asked us to ask them to call the ballpark if in fact they were watching. Well, we have further word in that story. Here's Jeff Kent against Traxel. Curveball for a strike. Apparently they were not watching because they have no electricity in their home down there. But WDM radio in Mississippi was watching. They reached Charlie Hayes' mom. She reports that everyone is fine. They just don't have any electricity right now. That's a ball outside. They called WDAM in Mississippi, then called the ballpark here. Bob Rose, Giants publicity director, took the call and called down to the clubhouse to tell Charlie Hayes that everybody's fine down there. So Charlie got to be resting a little bit easier now to know that.
Yes.
That's out of play off to the right. Of course, Joe and I and all of us here at ESPN send all of our prayers and best wishes to everybody down who has been subjected to the ravages of Hurricane George. And if you've been able to tune in tonight, we're happy to play some small part, or maybe taking you away for just a brief time from the harsh reality down there. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Kent. 2-2. Kent has hit one right back to Traxel, and he's been hit by a pitch. Joe Carter on deck, and then J.T. Snow. Steve Traxel has walked 5 and hit a batter, but he has not allowed a hit. For the first time, he has a lead, 2-0. Right to Morandini.
Well, Jeff Kent takes a fastball away, and he goes the other way, but he lines it right at the second baseman, Morandini, who was positioned perfectly.
And now Joe Carter, who was lined out to right and walked. The outfield around toward left. Check swing and a foul. Joe Carter went to Toronto. Part of that huge trade that was made there. Roberto Alomar and Carter went to Toronto. Fred McGriff and Tony Fernandez went to San Diego.
Yes.
Strike, call to the outside. 2 strikes to count.
Well, those 2 runs have really helped Traxel. I mean, his fastball seems to have a little more life to it here in the 6th inning than it's had in the last 2 or 3 innings.
One and 2. Well, you know, I remember reading a quote after Al Leiter lost the ball game for the Mets on Saturday. Mets got shut out in Atlanta, and he said he really felt like the way they were struggling to get runs that he was going to have to be perfect, not allow them to score to win that game, and it affected the way he threw. That's a foul. Just barely got a piece of it. So now Traxel knows he can give up a run or 2 and be all right. Mark Gardner.
I mean, he's pitched very well. He just made that one bad pitch. And I mean, 0-2, you would think, you know, he's got to try to get him to fish for something or try to get Gaetti to hit a ground ball, at least throw a sinker away or something. But I know the pitch wasn't exactly where he wanted it, but you have to miss off the plate, not in the middle.
Ooh, man, that curveball right there. But Carter tried to murder it, fouled it straight back.
Well, Carter, you see, Carter gets a fastball. Well, it's a look of breaking ball. Actually, it hangs on the inside part of the plate, and he just missed it.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Carter. Steve Traxel out of Long Beach State University. The splitter for the strikeout. 6 strikeouts for Traxel.
Well, he made a bad pitch, and he comes back with a good pitch. I mean, this splitter starts about knee high, and by the time it gets to the plate, it's in the dirt. Joe Carter with 2 strikes just about had to chase it. Good pitch there from Traxel.
2 down, and here is J.T. Snow. He has walked and grounded out to first.
We got him.
A high pop fly. Easy play for Rodriguez. And Traxel, for only the 2nd time in the game, retires the side in order. Top of the order, Johnson, Morandini, and Sammy Sosa coming up. 2-0 Cubs.
MLB Priceless Moments, presented by MasterCard.
Gives the ball to the kid. How awesome is that? Jimenez in the air.
And there's one happy fan.
That's why we love this great game and the great players in it.
The moment. That's amazing. That is amazing.
Big hug. I'm a big Josh Bell fan.
Wish you a long and happy life together.
Like Trout, as usual, signing autographs with some young fans, and the reaction, priceless.
Cubs 2, Giants nothing. We go to the last of the 6th inning from Wrigley Field. College football on Saturday. Coverage begins with College Game Day at 11 a.m. Eastern on ESPN. Then 13th ranked Wisconsin meets Indiana at noon Eastern on ESPN2. Kentucky versus 24th ranked Arkansas at 6 p.m. on ESPN2. And 12th ranked Georgia versus 6th ranked LSU at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Mark Gardner, Lance Johnson. 1 ball, 1 strike to Lance, who has twice grounded a short. Morandini on deck, and then Sammy Sosa due up 3rd in the inning. 2-0, the Cubs lead.
Yeah.
Base hit.
And this is probably Mark Gardner's last inning if he can get through it without any problems, because he's the third hitter for the Giants in the 7th inning. And there you see, that's what that 40-ounce bat will do for you. You do not have to get all of the ball, you know, to hit a line drive. And Lance swings that bat well. If you're the Cubs here, I think you try to manufacture a run here.
You want to send Lance?
Well, either that or you have Morandini execute a hit and run, or you go ahead and bunt.
Johnson with 10 steals this year. Morandini, excellent bunter, excellent hit and run man. Down the left field line. Bonds a long run. Gets there. Nice play by the Gold Glove outfielder. And back to first goes Johnson. And here comes Sammy Sosa. Out beyond the left field wall on Wayland Avenue. They put up the police barriers out there. But a huge crowd of folks hoping to perhaps get a hold of number 67. Sosa stands in. He has, on a check swing, bounced into a double play, and he has also struck out. Johnson back to the bag at first. Sosa with 4 home runs lifetime against Gardner. He also has hit 4 against Orel Hershiser of the Giants, but has not hit more than 4 against anybody. That looked like swinging for number 67.
Well, this pitch is up and out of the strike zone as we take a look at Rodriguez and Johnstone in the Giants bullpen.
Sosa back out of the box, trying to gather his thoughts. Now he's back in there. Lance Johnson back to the bag at first. The outfield very deep and around toward left for the Giants. Well, Sosa has hit a lot of his home runs this year to right and right center. Tonight, the wind blowing in from right. Everybody on their feet. Base hit. Johnson's going to try for third. He's in there. The ball hits him.
Good hustle by Johnson. Javier seemed to fall down and didn't get much on the throw, but Johnson forced the action. That's the aggressive type play that you want, and Lance Johnson made it. But this is also the Sammy Sosa of 1998. He will cut down on his swing and hit the ball back through the middle.
Mark Gardner backing up the play at third base as Dusty Baker heads out to the mound now. And Mark Gardner is finished.
Well, if you're the Giants, you cannot afford to fall any farther behind, and he wants a left-hander here to try to get Mark Grace out.
2 lefties coming up, Grace and Rodriguez. Runners at first and third, 1 out. The Cubs already leading 2-0. We'll be right back. Cubs lead 2-0. Sammy Sosa singling to center with Johnson taking third. And now Rich Rodriguez, the veteran left-hander, has come on to face Mark Grace.
And he has not had a lot of success against Mark Grace. Grace is 5 for 9 against Rodriguez with 1 home run.
Lance Johnson at third base. Sammy Sosa at first. Snow on the bag with him. Outside, ball 1. Grace, there you see his numbers, as Joe mentioned, against Rodriguez. Grace in this game is single to right and fouled out to third. Big spot of the game. The chance for the Cubs with their cleanup hitter up there to extend their lead. Sosa back at first. Sammy led the club this year with 18 steals. They don't run a whole lot. Only 64 steals for the whole team all year. They have hit more home runs, though, than any Cubs team in history. Kind
of interesting the way Mark Grace kind of decoys a lot of pitchers away. He kind of walks across the plate, which tells them that maybe you can come inside on him, but he protects inside first. You see him kind of walk across the plate on those first two pitches. If you're the catcher or the pitcher, you say, well, I should bust him inside, but he actually wants that.
3-0.
I'm not so sure that he won't be swinging on this particular pitch. I mean, Mark Grace and Sammy Sosa are your big guys, especially RBI men and your best hitters. 3-0, you can let him take a hack. He's disciplined enough to know that he has to get a good pitch that he can drive. And that was one that he could drive, but he chose not to swing at it.
3-1. Grace looking over Tom Gamboa, the third base coach. Relaying the sign for that man, manager Jim Riggleman. The middle infield double play depth. Sosa's running. Ball four.
Good smart play, I think, by the Cubs there to go ahead and run Sammy Sosa, because Mark Grace will put the ball in play if it's a strike, and you open up a hole for him on the left side, especially because he's not going to pull a lot of left-handed pitchers, but if he does pull it, you still have the hole open at first base. So I think that was a perfect hit and run situation there for Riggleman.
Now, instead of Henry Rodriguez, there is Matt Mieske to come out and act as a pinch hitter. Dusty Baker has a right-hander up in his bullpen, but also remember that Jim Riggleman's got two outstanding left-handed hitters still on his bench, Orlando Merced and Brant Brown. So Henry Rodriguez packing his gear.
Well, John, Glenn Allen Hill hit a pinch hit grand slam home run against the Giants earlier this year.
Right here at Wrigley Field.
Yeah, in this situation, a pinch hit, and Glenn Allen Hill hit a home run, a grand slam. But they choose to use Matt Mieske. I think he doesn't want to fire all his big lumber this early in the ball game.
Johnson at third, Sosa at second, and Grace at first. One out. The Cubs ahead 2-0. The Giants infield pulled in at the corners, double play depth up the middle. Strike on the outside.
I think if there's a ground ball at third, if it's near the back, Charlie Hayes will tag third and throw the first. But otherwise, he's in a position where he has to go around the horn as well. He's not in a position like to come to the plate. He's playing back pretty deep.
So only snow really is pulled in.
Exactly.
Base hit. Johnson is in to score. And Sosa scores. Grace to third. 4-0 Cubs. John Johnstone is being summoned in from the bullpen. Matt Mieske, former Milwaukee Brewer, gets the huge hit. 4-0 Cubs. We'll be back. Cubs now leading 4-0 in the 6th inning, and they are threatening to get more. John Johnstone, the third Giants pitcher of the game, right-hander, who's had an excellent season for them. But yesterday in Denver, he hung a slider to Todd Helton, who hit it for a 3-run homer, part of the Rockies comeback.
Well, if you're wondering maybe why Dusty didn't bring him in to pitch to Mieschke, well, as you said, he has Merced and Brant Brown on the bench, and those two guys have been more successful pinch hitting this year than Mieschke had. Mieschke had really not done that well as a pinch hitter this year.
2 on, 1 out. Gary Gaetti is at the plate. He started all of this in the 5th inning when he hit a 2-run homer against Gardner. That was the first scoring of the game. Now 2 more runs are home, and they want more. Missing inside. Mark Race is at third base, and Matt Mieschke is over at first after a 2-run single. Mieschke, as a pinch hitter, had been 4 for 25.
Yeah, that's not very good, and the other guys are hitting well over 300. Well, Brant Brown 6 for 21, and Orlando Merced is a guy that will always put the ball in play, and he's hitting 375 as a pinch hitter. So I guess you take the lesser of 2 evils, and that's one of the reasons he left Rodriguez in to pitch to Mieschke.
But Mieschke crossed him up. A huge hit from Matt Mieschke. Slider. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Gaetti chased him. Giants bullpen busy again. Rookie right-hander Russ Ortiz, who's been in the rotation the last couple of months, warming up. Well, Joe, when we were in Seattle 3 years ago in the big playoff between the Angels and the Mariners, little heralded Luis Soho got the big hit. Should be 2, or really the second one. Came back to first. 2. Double play. So the Cubs add 2, but they don't put them away. We go to the 7th inning. Charlie Hayes coming up. 4-0 Cubs. Steve Traxel, as you see the totals there, not only leading 4-0, the Giants have not yet had a hit against him as we go to the 7th inning. And one of the heroes of the piece for the Cubs up till now, Matt Mieschke, staying in the ball game to play left field after pinch hitting for Henry Rodriguez. So now the Giants, as we head into the late innings, after making their scintillating run down the stretch from 5 games out with 10 games to play to force a playoff, now they are 4 runs down with only 3 innings to play here at Wrigley Field. And how many comebacks can one team have?
Well, I think what you have to say to yourself if you're the Giants is we have 9 outs left. Let's use them to the best of our ability. You can't go up there and hit a 3-run homer or a 4-run homer. Just we need some base runners.
Barry Bonds has been shut down by Traxel, 0 for 3.
I would say even worse than that, John. He's been frustrated by Traxel.
Yes.
Charlie Hayes fouling it back. He is flying to shallow right and walked. Brian Johnson due up next, but Brent Maine, a left-handed hitter, has come out on deck. Brent Maine on deck.
There you go.
1 ball, 1 strike to Charlie Hayes. Jeff Kent 0 for 2 and was hit by a pitch. Although he hit the ball hard in the 6th inning, Bonds has not been able to make hard contact. 0 for 3.
Yes.
Those are the 2 big guys. 248 RBIs for the 2 of them, and they've been shut down by Steve Traxel.
And if you're the Giants, you look ahead. You're 4 runs down, and you only have the prospect probably of them hitting 1 more time in this ball game. That's the tough part. So you're going to have to do it.
Right to Morandini.
Well, the Giants have not had a base hit, but they've hit some balls hard.
So in the 6th inning, Kent led off with a line drive right to Morandini. Giants have not had a leadoff man get on base in any inning of this game. All 7 of the men who have led off the innings for the Giants tonight have been retired by Steve Traxel. Now Brent Maine, the pinch hitter for Johnson. Maine .267 for the year, 3 homers, 32 batted in. That's a base hit. And that is the first one. So Traxel a no-hitter for 6 1/3 innings.
Being honest with you, John, I don't think he really cared. After he got the lead, he was going to make them swing the bat.
But it wasn't like Roy Halladay's day yesterday in Toronto.
No, that was...
I mean, he had no hits, no walks.
I felt for him. I was watching him. Well, he started each hitter off this inning with a fastball. And Maine gets a fastball, and he lines it to right field for a base hit.
Do what you did in Milwaukee, Rick. Get someone up.
And I guess he's not pitching good enough. Phil Regan goes out. He gives up this first base hit. He's retired. He had retired like 6 Giants in a row.
Giants are going to bring a pinch hitter up here as Regan and Houston out chatting at the mound with Steve Traxel. Armando Rios from Santurce, Puerto Rico originally. Then he went to Louisiana State University. Made his way through the Giants farm system. Got his first look in the big leagues this year. In his second pinch hit at bat, he hit a pinch hit homer in LA. The next day, he came up as a pinch hitter again and again homer. He has played for the last 4 years for Cubs third base coach Tom Gamboa in the winter leagues down there in Puerto Rico. And Gamboa really likes him. He likens him to a Lenny Dykstra kind of a spark plug player. Good hitter, runs well, excellent center fielder. Rios has only had 7 official at bats as a big leaguer and has 2 home runs and 2 singles. Maine at first, 1 out. In the dirt, blocked. Ball 1. And the Cubs, for the first time in the game, have bullpen activity. Matt Karchner, a right-hander, is warming up for the Cubs. Cubs lead 4-0. We're in the 7th inning. Leadoff man Stan Javier is on deck. Grace is playing behind Maine at first base now, not on the bag with him.
Yes.
Nice pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike. Well, Rios out of LSU, Traxel out of Long Beach State. Both have had College World Series experience.
I like all that, but it's not like major league experience and playing in a playoff game.
This is a little different.
A little different.
The big stage. The show.
Yeah.
Strike 2. He chased it. The 116th pitch, by the way, thrown by Traxel on this one.
Well, this fastball runs away. One of the things I think that has made Traxel successful tonight, John, is he's been just erratic enough. By that I mean the hitters can't get any rhythm on him. He is not in any type of groove where he's, you know, throwing a fastball in, change up away. He doesn't have a pattern. He's just been erratic enough to keep the Giants hitters off balance and had them swinging a lot of pitches out of the zone.
But he tried the same one there. I mean, Joe, what is that? Is that the split-fingered pitch? I mean, it came in 81 miles an hour.
No, it looked like he just turned over the fastball. He runs it away from the left-handed hitter.
Because it's considerably slower, right, than his regular
But he
fastball.
wasn't trying to throw. It's not like a sinker, but he just turns it over. The ball moves away.
2-2 the count. Armando Rios, only his 8th major league at bat.
That's nothing.
Foul ground, Gaetti, and in amongst the spectators. The wind may have helped get it there. 2-2. Gaetti and the shortstop Hernandez gave chase. Wrigley Field, there has not been postseason play here for 9 years. 1989 the last time when the Cubs and Giants met in the National League Championship Series. Cubs figure that's a long enough drought. They, of course, also went into the League Championship Series 1984. They have not been to the World Series since 1945 and have not won the World Series since 1908. They lead this game 4-0 in the 7th. 1 on, 1 out. 2-2 the count. And Rios going out after it, fouling it back out of play. This is the pretty big situation for a rookie who's just a September call-up.
Yes, it is. But, you know, the one thing I've been impressed with a lot of young players, I mean, in the big leagues especially, is that they have no fear, John. I mean, they feel like, hey, I can do it and I belong here. So they don't think like we did when I first came up. They're not nervous and afraid.
2-2 the count. Main at first. And he threw him the split-fingered pitch, and Rios, the raw rookie, took it. A lot of the veterans have had a hard time taking that one on 2 strikes tonight.
Interesting situation here. Mark Grace is playing behind the runner at first base. The question is, do you send him, you know, because he can get a big lead, or do you go ahead and play it straight up?
Well, what would you do?
I'm aggressive, John. You know that. But the other risk is you're 4 runs down. If he hits a line drive at, you know, at someone, you're out of the inning.
Three balls, 2 strikes, and many in the crowd rise to their feet now. Maine is not running. Just missing it. That was awfully close. Wow.
Well, Traxel very upset with the call. I mean, a little more demonstrative than they should have been there.
Well, and Bruce Fleming will not take kindly to that.
No, I don't think Bruce saw him. Well, watch his reaction.
Well, the catcher did bring the ball up a little bit, but I think that pitch has been called a strike a few times.
I mean, look at Traxel's reaction. But again, I don't think Bruce Fleming saw him. Well, they're going to take him out anyway.
Jim Riggleman stopping with Bruce Fleming as he heads out to the mound. Traxel is up around 120 pitches anyway. 2 men on, 1 man out, and Matt Karchner will be brought in from the bullpen as part of a double switch. Stan Javier coming up. There's Matt Karchner, who came over from across town. He'd been with the White Sox and was acquired on July 29th for a minor league pitcher. He inherits 2 base runners with 1 out. You're looking at his statistics combined between the White Sox and the Cubs. It had a 5.15 ERA while with the White Sox. 2 on, 1 out. Javier, the hitter. Strike, and it's 1-1. Orlando Merced came out to play left field. Minsky goes down. There's Maine at second. And Rios at first. 1 out. Put Merced out there rather than Brant Brown.
Yes!
A little bit low. 1 ball, 1 strike. Javier has flied out and twice walked. Steve Traxel, 121 pitches, only 1 hit allowed in 6 1/3 innings.
And he did the job. I mean, he kept his team in the ball game, gave them an opportunity to go ahead.
He leaves with a shutout going. Two and 1. In the Cubs bullpen now, there is further activity. The left-hander is Felix Heredia, but the right-hander is the Cubs' leading runner. The #1 starter, Kevin Tapani. We had mentioned that he would be in the bullpen if needed as a setup man. 2-1 to Javier. Aurelia on deck.
Yes.
Down the left field line, home run for Merced. He makes the catch.
Nice play there by Merced. The wind was pushing that ball away from him toward the crowd. And he got over there quickly enough that he was able to see. He gets there quickly. That's the key. He looks, he finds the wall, and then he actually has to reach back to make the catch. I think Javier thought the wind was going to push that ball into the seats.
Well, so did Merced. I mean, Orlando, he starts to leap into the seats after it and has to reach back for it. Now Sean Dunston, the former Cub, who, like Mark Grace, is another who was here back in 1989. The Giants and Cubs met in the League Championship Series, but he was wearing the Cubs uniform at that time. And Dunston primarily has been used as a pinch hitter by Dusty Baker since picking him up from Cleveland. And he has hit 3 home runs for the Giants in 50 at-bats, but only a 160 average. Dunston has hit 1 pinch hit home run. Sean Dunston batting with 2 on and 2 out. And at this point, they don't need the home run. They'd like him just to get on base somehow. With Barry Bonds on deck. Brent Maine, who singled at second base. Armando Rios, who walked at first base. The Giants trailing the Cubs 4-0 in the 7th inning. And the game right now for the Giants is to try to keep the inning going for Bonds. And they can give it their best shot. Oh man, he came right up with a fastball. And Dunston fouled it back. The Giants have got their pitches, gotten their pitches, and have not hit them.
Yeah, that's the point. I mean, they've had some pitches to hit in this ball game. They just have not been able to do it. And when they foul those pitches off, Traxel always came back and made good pitches to retire them.
Sean Dunston has faced Karchner 1 time and hit a double against him. Man, he got another one. Karchner's not exactly hitting his spots right now. Got away with a couple of pitches here. 2 strikes and 2 down, and again the Wrigley Field faithful on their feet. Barry Bonds would be next. Tired of waiting, Dunston backs away.
Take one for the Cubs, Sean. Come on. Come on.
1-2. It's more like the pitch that maybe Gardner intended to throw when he had a 2-strike count on Gary Gaetti in the 5th inning.
Well, you're right. Gardner made all the pitches till he got to that 0-2 count, and then he made a mistake.
Gaetti hit a 2-run homer to put the Cubs ahead. Now they lead 4-0. Giants have had a lot of base runners tonight. 2 on right now. They've left the bases loaded 1 time. They've had 8 men on base, but they have only had 1 hit. There's the rub. They've not been able to knock anybody in. Houston again out to talk to Karchner. I mean, Houston's had to battle with his own pitches tonight. The outfield is bunched up towards center against Sean Dunston. He was the Cubs' everyday shortstop for a long time right here at Wrigley Field. Well, he's thrown him 2 in the dirt here since getting ahead of him. The Giants will need a bolt of lightning here. Down by 4. And especially they need something, anything, to get Bonds up with men on base. Finally, Karchner ready. Up the middle. Morandini has no play, and the bases are loaded for Barry Bonds. An infield hit for Dunston.
Nice job there by Morandini to keep the ball on the infield and not allow a run to score. Immediately, Jim Riggleman comes out. Good job by Sean Dunston.
Felix Heredia, the left-hander, is coming on to face Barry Bonds. The bases are loaded. We'll be back. There is the 22-year-old left-hander Felix Heredia, albeit a left-hander with a lot of experience. 3 years with the Florida Marlins, and was acquired at the end of July from Florida in a deal that sent Kevin Ory, among others, to Florida. The Cubs former third baseman. He pitched in 4 games in the World Series last year against Cleveland and never gave up a run. Only 2 hits in 5 1/3 innings pitched. And he has never given up a hit to this man, Barry Bonds, whom he will face with 3 men on, 2 men out. The Giants, if they're going to make a move, you would think now's the time. The runners, Maine at third, Rios at second, and Dunston at first.
Well, it's not imperative that Barry try to go for a home run. He just needs to get a base hit, maybe find a gap. Very rarely can you go up there to hit a home run and hit one.
Ball 1.
I think it's imperative for Bonds to make sure that he gets a good pitch to hit. If you pop it up, okay, but make sure you get a pitch to hit.
Of course, even if he hits a single or whatever, Jeff Kent, the RBI leader for the club, is on deck. Strike call, and Bonds didn't like it.
Well, Bonds has been frustrated a lot this evening with some of the calls by Bruce Fleming. He thinks they're borderline, and the pitcher's been getting those calls. But Barry also helped Traxel out his last time up, chasing 2 fastballs up and out of the strike zone.
He has struck out, grounded to third, and fouled to third. Has not gotten the ball out of the infield tonight. Right to Grace. And the Giants leave 3 on again. Bonds is 0 for 4. And the Giants have left 9 men on. 4-0 Cubs. Last of the 7th coming up. And Bill Murray is here to lead the fans and take you out to the ball game. And we'll hang on to it right here.
All right. This one's for Harry. And this one's for Jack. And this one's for Gabby Hartman, too. Let's let them hear it all the way in Woodstock. A 1, a 2, a 3. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the ground. Buy me some peanuts and crackers and a beer. So it's real good for the Cubs. If they don't win, it's a shame for
Well, that song will never be the same.
Well, Harry Carey always sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," and here, first year in so many years without Harry, they've had a guest singer perform those functions in memory of Harry, as a tribute to Harry. And tonight, Bill Murray, the night of the 1-game winner-take-all playoff, the Cubs leading 4-0, and Barry Bonds again frustrated.
Well, actually got a pretty good pitch to hit. That pitch was not down in a way. The other ones were. But Bonds, as I said, he's been kind of frustrated all night. Pitch is just a little bit out of his zone. He's swung it some, and Bruce Fleming has called the other one. So he's been in a tough situation.
Don't forget now, tomorrow, the division series will begin in 3 different series. The ESPN will have the first 2 games for you. The Red Sox at the Jake. Pedro Martinez and Jared Wright, or rather, Jared Wright. And then that's at 1 o'clock on ESPN. 4 o'clock on ESPN. Randy Johnson and Kevin Brown, the Padres and Astros. And at 8 Eastern on the Fox Network tomorrow night. The Rangers at the big ballpark in the Bronx. David Wells and Tom Stoppelmeyer. Wednesday at 1 o'clock. The Red Sox and Indians game 2. Then the winner of this game in Atlanta at 4 o'clock, the Braves' first game, and then game 2 of the Rangers-Yankees on NBC on Wednesday night at 8 Eastern. I decided to loan you out to NBC that night, Joe.
I hear you.
Here's Russ Ortiz on the pitch for the Giants, and Tyler Houston is the hitter. The Giants have some changes otherwise. Sean Dunston stays in the ball game to play shortstop. Brent Maine stays in to do the catching. He's trying to throw the changeup, missing badly with it. 2-0, Brent Maine. Also came out as a pinch hitter, staying in. Ortiz is the 4th Giants pitcher of the game.
All right.
3-0. And of course, you talk about that big stage, big game, the biggest game that young Russ Ortiz has ever pitched in. Great job for the Giants. He's a starting pitcher. Some big games for him down the stretch. At low strike, 3-1 to Houston, who is 0 for 2.
Get through.
To second base. Mark Gardner, the starter. In the foreground, John Johnstone. Reliever who came in and got Gaetti. He hit an inning-ending double play in the 6th. Gardner charged with all 4 runs. On his right is Rich Rodriguez. Came in immediately after him. Those are the first 3 Giants pitchers who have worked in this game, all sitting in the dugout rather than heading back to the clubhouse. Here is Jose Hernandez. He has walked and struck out.
Good eye.
Did he swing? Yes, he did. Curveball in the dirt from Ortiz. 4-0, Chicago leading. Game number 163. Off the outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. The Giants bullpen is busy. Left-hander Alvin Moore, 52. The right-hander Julian Tavares. Relief needed here. Orlando Merced is on deck for the Cubs. Hernandez has walked and struck out. Curveball. On the right, Gary Gaetti, a 2-run homer in the 5th, and he's talking with his fellow RBI man of the night, Matt Mieske, a 2-run pinch hit single in the 6th. The only runs of the game.
Get through. Get through.
That's a base hit. Hit number 8 for the Cubs. Hernandez gets his first.
Orlando, you rule.
Well, it's a fastball up. Hit wide at third. Charlie Hayes can't get there. Neither can Sean Dunston.
Now Orlando Merced. This is the 3rd playoff for the Giants. The other 2 they won, 1951 and 1962, both against the Dodgers. And each time they won in the final game of the playoff, tiebreaker playoff. Trailing in the 9th inning. 1951, they were down 4-1 in the 9th. And then Bobby Thompson, of course, hit the famous shot heard around the world, the 3-run homer to win it. 1962, they were at Dodger Stadium, trailing 4-2 in the 9th, and scored 4 runs on only 2 hits to end up beating the Dodgers 6-4. The Giants have, in their franchise history, been in this situation before. But I don't see anybody out there who played in either one of those series.
Good fastball from Ortiz right up under the hands. That's the toughest pitch I think in the world to hit. Fastball, good fastball under the hands.
0-2 the count to Orlando Merced. Long time with the Pittsburgh Pirates. To Toronto for a while. Been traveling here lately. 0-2 the count. This pitch does not count. Time was granted.
I'm a little surprised at that because Ortiz was almost starting his motion to the plate when Merced backed out of the box. And while he was requesting that timeout, he backed out before actually he received it from Bruce Fleming.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Merced. Popped up foul. Got to go back out of play. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Out on Waveland Avenue, the crowd is getting bigger, and some people are hoping for a celebration. The Cubs can hang on to this lead. They need only 6 outs more. They lead by 4. And the celebration will start big time on the streets of Chicago. In here, the Cubs lead 4-0. Last of the 7th. 1 on. Orlando Merced, the hitter. Lance Johnson on deck. Cubs bullpen, by the way, is also busy. Kevin Tapani has stayed up, so we may see Tapani here in the 8th inning. Just got a piece of a foul tip. These one-game playoffs, Joe, I mean, there's so much tension. You have to have a 7th game of a World Series or a League Championship Series or a 5th game of a division series to even come close to the tension.
I think the other things right there, I don't think the 7th game of the World Series, there's nothing to match that, but I think the finality of a 5-game series or a 3-game series.
But I mean, even in the World Series, I mean, you made the World Series.
Yeah.
These guys, if they lose, they don't make anything. They go home. And how many of the teams that have lost the various playoffs over the years, how many are not even remembered at all?
Well, that's true. But the 7th game of the World Series is a little different. I played in 7th game of the World Series. I played in a couple playoffs before too. But
well, I have to take your word for it.
The 7th game of the World Series, John. That's the ultimate.
But for a lot
but
of
I agree with you. When you get to the when you get to the final game of any series,
but I mean,
it's
to play 162 games and get this close and then nothing.
Right.
Runner goes. The ball is just foul. Rob Nen, the Giants' closer, protecting the bullpen catchers out there, had to react quickly. That was really hit hard.
Well, it was hit very hard, just outside the bag. The runner's going, and he just rips it just foul. Remember, it doesn't have to hit fair, just go over the corner of the bag, even if it's down the line there, it just has to go over the corner of the bag.
Two balls, 2 strikes, 1 out. Hernandez the runner at first. This is back. 39,556. The official paid attendance. That does not include all the folks out on the rooftops, on the buildings out across Sheffield and Waveland Avenues, or the folks on the avenues out there. There goes the runner. That is ripped foul on the right field line. So.
Well, they first tried to get in under the hands of Merced. He did it a couple of times, and they continue to pitch inside. Now Merced is turning on everything.
I mean, when you lose a playoff like this, it's either they forget you, or even worse, they remember you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Branca, he gave up the home run to Thompson. People have not forgotten that. There goes the runner again. And no throw by Maine.
Well, it seemed like when he tried to take the ball out of his glove, he didn't have a good grip on it.
I mean, that very first playoff ever, 1946, the Dodgers and the Cardinals. Snow was in it. 1995, his Angels lost. 48, the Red Sox in Cleveland, the first American League playoff. Cleveland won it. Curveball, tough play for Snow. Nice pickup. Ortiz covering. And we saw there why J.T. Snow won the Gold Glove in the National League last year. Over to third base. And Hernandez.
You've got to be a good fielder to be able to back up on a ball and have good enough hands to grab it like this. See, right here, he starts in, now he backs up. Now the ball jumps at you. You've got to have great hands to be able to make a play like that. And JT, of course, does have great hands, and that's why he's won Gold Gloves in both leagues. Nice play.
And as Ortiz makes the put out there, that's his final play of the game. Dusty Baker going to the bullpen for Alvin Moorman, a left-hander, to face the lefties, Johnson and Morandini. 4-0 Cubs. Will be back. There's Alvin Moorman, a left-hander, on for the Giants now with the runner at third and 2 down in the 7th inning. And the left-hander batting, Lance Johnson, coming up. Moorman was acquired along with Jose Mesa from the Cleveland Indians before the trading deadline. The deal that sent Steve Reed over to Cleveland, and there are his numbers for the year. He has not pitched much for the Giants. He had a pulled hamstring, put him on the disabled list for a long while. He curves it for strike one. Johnson single to the 6th, starting the 2-run rally. They made it a 4-0 game. He bats now with 2 down and Hernandez over third base. Kevin Tapani still heating up in the Cubs bullpen. Shallow right, Carter, a late break. Still coming.
Nice play.
The inning is over. The Giants are running out of outs, and Kevin Tapani is coming in to pitch. Ken Carter and Snow duo. The game summary: the Giants trailing the Cubs 4-0. 4 runs, 8 hits to no runs, 2 hits. And the Giants' big hitters, numbers 3 through 7, combined 0 for 12 with 3 walks. The Giants have left 9 men on base. Steve Trachsel, 6 1/3 innings. He was wild, but he only gave up 1 hit and no runs. Gary Gaetti's 2-run homer in the 5th started the scoring for the Cubs.
And there's a fastball 0-2 from Mark Gardner. He definitely wasn't trying to throw it there, but he missed over the middle of the plate. And Gary Gaetti, being a veteran player, made him pay for it.
So now Kevin Tapani, 19 wins for the year as a starter, is on in relief.
Well, this is a unique situation, John. I mean, Tapani is used to, being a starter. I mean, look, you can warm up and be ready to pitch, but mentally, are you ready to pitch to get these 6 outs? Because that's basically what they have left, and they use Rod Beck a lot in the last 3 days, so I don't know if he's going to be available to come in and pitch for the 9th inning as he normally does.
Tapani worked on Friday as a starter in Houston. Jim Kemp, the hitter. First ball swing. Hernandez. High throw, but Brace brought it back in, 1 away.
Well, that's the one thing that you have if you're Kevin Tapani, is you have that good sinker, and you say, well, if I can just keep the ball in the ballpark, keep it on the ground, maybe I can, get a little help from my friends, my infielders.
Well, Tapani is making his 279th Major League appearance, and it's only the 7th time that he has worked in relief. And another one of the Cubs' regular starters is now warming up in the bullpen behind him. Joe Carter, the hitter, and that's ball 1. Well, Tapani, with a win tonight, would have been set up nicely to go on Wednesday in Atlanta. I suppose he still could.
I was going to say he probably still could pitch if they need him.
What's wrong with that?
There's Mark Clark, who made 33 starts this year. Tapani 34. Jim Riggleman, at this point, does not have a whole lot of confidence in his bullpen, as we saw yesterday in Houston, except for that man, Rod Beck, and he'd prefer, I'm sure, not to use Beck today.
Yeah. But Beck is a warrior. If they want him to take the ball, he'll take the ball and go out there. I guarantee you.
2-1 to Carter.
Yes.
Foul out of play. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Bonds 0 for 4. Kent 0 for 3. Carter 0 for 2 with a walk. Snow 0 for 2 with a walk. Hayes 0 for 2 with a walk. The numbers 3 through 7 hitters. And they've just been shut down by the Cubs tonight. Off the hands. Hernandez charges. Out number 2.
good job by Hernandez. He takes a peek at Joe Carter to see how far he's down the line. Now he gloves it with his glove hand. Then he knows he has time to make the transfer. He didn't have to really hurry. He stole a peek at Joe Carter as he was going down the line.
2 down, nobody on, and JT Snow 0 for 2 with a walk. High and deep into right center. Sosa quickly back, all the way back to the wall. Can't get it. It's off the ivy. Snow's going to try for third. The ball juggled by Johnson, and Snow easily makes it to third.
Well, because that ball was hit so high, it stayed in the ballpark. Because he definitely hit it well enough to get it out of here, but the higher you hit it, the more the wind's going to have an effect on it, and just knocked it down. Sosa almost caught it.
Wind, a strong wind has been blowing in from right all night. If anything, right now it might be more of a crosswind, a cross in from right and toward left.
And it did push it a little bit towards right center field and away from Sosa.
Yeah, you saw Sosa back at the wall and then started to move right along the wall for a while. So a triple for Snow. That's his first triple of the year. And Charlie Hayes is up as we get a look at it.
There you see Sammy Sosa running along the wall. He thought he had it gauged, and the wind kept pushing it toward left field. And he ran over and finally made a stab at it.
Charlie Hayes is flying to shallow right, walked, and lined out to second. 4-0 Cubs. The Giants have only 4 outs of life left to them.
Here we go.
That sinker. 0-1.
That was actually looked like a pretty good pitch for Charlie Hayes to hit. Fastball, but it was a sinker, but it wasn't down. And the wind is starting to shift a little bit more towards left field.
The National League wild card, and Sammy Sosa is coming up second in the last of the 8th. Stay with us.
MLB at Home is presented by Roman, the digital health clinic for men and proud partner of Major League Baseball.
Been a lot of waiting till next year if you're a Cubs fan, and they're convinced next year is now. At least a trip to the postseason. In the 163rd game of the regular year. There's Gary Gaetti. His 2-run homer in the 5th inning. It's made him a Cubs legend in the making. Only his 37th game as a Cub. Alvin Mormon taking his final warm-ups. The Giants trail the Cubs 4-0. It'll be Mickey Morandini and then Sammy Sosa. So Mormon is likely only in to face the one-hitter. Morandini 1 for 3 in the game. He was in the 1993 World Series with the Philadelphia Phillies, and that being the case, he had to watch Joe Carter circle the bases with a game-winning and World Series-ending home run in Game 6 that year. Slider in the dirt for ball 1.
That was a year where the Phillies were probably the 3rd best team in the National League. But at the time you need to play the best, they played the best. And they beat Atlanta in the championship series to go on to the World Series.
Braves won 104 that year. The Giants won 103. And they got sent home. And then the Braves, after being taken right to the wall by the Giants in an incredible pennant race, didn't have anything left as they succumbed to the Phillies. Orel Hershiser, he was 11-10 for the Giants his first year in San Francisco. Made more starts for the Giants this year than in any other season since his Cy Young year 10 years ago. 34 starts. He may not be back with the Giants. They have an option on his services. That is a question as to whether or not he'll come back, or they'll write him back.
Outside.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Morandini. Sammy Sosa on deck. Perhaps his final shot. Hitting number 67. Out of play. Still 2 balls, 2 strikes.
John, I read an article the other day, and it was a great quote about Sammy Sosa. He said, a lot of players make $10 million and try to figure out how to spend it. He said, and then there are guys like Sammy Sosa who make $10 million and try to figure out how to earn it. And they just love to play the game, and that's Sammy Sosa. He just loves to play.
Norman strikes out Morandini. Now Dusty Baker's going to come out with Sammy Sosa due up. Fans already rising to their feet to welcome Sosa, maybe for the final time in the regular season. The Giants are going to make a double switch, and Jose Mesa, who has been warming up in the bullpen all this time, is going to come on to face Sosa. 8th inning, 4-0 Cubs. Sosa coming up. The Cubs are leading 4-0. At stake, a spot against Atlanta in the National League Division Series. There's Jose Mesa, the new pitcher for the Giants. And his numbers overall with Cleveland and now with San Francisco. And also a new third baseman has come on for the Giants. Bill Miller. He'll hit in the 9th spot and be due up 2nd in the 9th inning for San Francisco. And of course Mesa has come on to face Sammy Sosa. 66 home runs. Sosa with 158 runs batted in, one more than Juan Gonzalez of the Texas Rangers. It's been just an incredible year, one of the greatest run-producing years in the history of Major League Baseball, and most likely an MVP season for Sammy Sosa. And maybe his final at bat in the regular season right now at Wrigley Field. We thought it was last week, and Sammy Sosa did. Right. He went hitless in that one, but he got another shot. In fact, went hitless that whole last weekend here. But he's 1 for 3 tonight. And his one hit was a big one, accelerating the rally in the 6th inning. Extended it from 2-0 to 4-0. Cameras with the automatic flash, and then the flashes go off all over the ballpark. I saw that in St. Louis. McGuire, we've seen it almost everywhere where McGuire and Sosa have been going. Mesa misses ball 1. Mesa with the Giants with a 3.3 earned run average. He's only given up a couple of runs since early August. Ball 1 strike to Sammy Sosa. He's kept that average over 300 all year long. That's certainly a difference for Sammy Sosa.
John, earlier, in the year, he's always talked about, all I care about is the Cubs winning. And to be honest with you, I was a little skeptical about that. Not that he didn't care about the Cubs winning, but I also felt that, you get one chance in a million to, break Roger Maris's record, and that should be, on your mind as well. But I tell you what, I've seen in the last couple of weeks a lot of instances where he put the team in front of his individual goals, because I've seen him where he's had counts where he could go for it, the home runs, and he wouldn't. He would take a single to right field to drive in a run or do whatever the team needed rather than going for the big fly.
2-2.
So when Sammy Sosa tells you that he is really concerned about the Cubs winning, you can believe him.
Coming out party with Sosa. The whole country has discovered him this year. 3-2. And what they've discovered is a guy that you have to love.
Right. That's the great thing. He and Mark McGuire both are players that you can just pull for because they're good guys and they love people.
3-2 to Sosa. Swing for number 67. That was a pitch he might have done it on.
Well, Sosa gets a fastball, and you're right. That could have been number 67.
Come on, Sammy!
They're waiting for it. Not a across the street. Down the right field line. Carter, base hit.
See, Sammy Sosa 2-3 years ago would never have hit that pitch. That would have been a strikeout pitch. But Sammy Mesa made a good pitch away, and he just flips it down the right field line.
Sosa 2 for 4, and the MVP chant.
Well, let's take a look at this pitch. Fastball away, and look at that. He just kind of stays flat-footed. Look at that, and just uses his hands, hit the ball the other way. That pitch was away from him. He didn't try to pull it. Just gets a base hit to right field. That's the difference between hitting 260 and 300. When you can hit those tough pitches and go the other way.
In the record book, only the one number will be listed. And McGuire with 70. Yes, he has the record. Past Snow and past Sosa. Sosa steaming for third. Grace for second. A double.
Man, when you're playing in and you've got a left-handed hitter up there, and he pulls the ball down on you like that. I mean, JT Snow actually had no chance. And Sosa had no chance.
Well, this is at full speed.
Yeah. And I'm not sure JT picked it up as quickly as he wanted, but that ball was a bullet. We'll see how close he is. I don't know why he was in so close unless he was expecting a bunt. And I can't understand that.
39th double of the year for Mark Grace. Now Kevin Tapani is going to stay up and bat for himself. The infield is in for the Giants. Mark Clark had warmed up, but has not been throwing since the Cubs came to bat. Tapani hitting 135 for the year. Giants thinking they might try the suicide squeeze, so Dusty Baker pitches out. Well, the Cubs 3 and 4 hitters, Joe. The Giants big guys have been shut down. For the Cubs, Sosa and Grace have had 4 hits in 7 at bats plus a walk.
Oh!
Kent will hold Sosa. And Tapani is out. 2 gone. And now Gary Gaetti. And a standing ovation for the 40-year-old veteran. And as Gaetti is saluted here, Joe, we look down to the Cubs bullpen. And yesterday's pitchers, who both pitched so valiantly for the Cubs at Wrigley at the Astrodome, are now warming up at Wrigley Field. And we're kind of surprised.
Well, I'm surprised if they let Tapani hit in that situation and then you start the bullpen, because if you let Tapani hit, that's telling you that he's definitely going to pitch for you in the 9th inning.
But Rod Beck and Terry Mulholland have both gotten up in the Cubs bullpen. Here is Gaetti, a chance to put that one final crushing blow on the Giants. It's 4-0 right now. Strike call.
Beautiful fastball, knee high over the outside corner. I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot of good pitches made tonight by pitchers in this ball game.
Gary Gaetti broke in all the way back in 1981 with the Minnesota Twins. Right there again. It's 0-2 to Gaetti. He was on both of those Twins World Championship clubs, 1987 and 1991. That's Beck, the right-hander, number 47. Mulholland, the left-hander, number 45.
Well, this is the count he had when he hit the home run. It was no balls and 2 strikes, and he hit a home run in the 5th inning. Well, they make sure that they waste this one.
Just a bit outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Tyler Houston, a left-handed hitter, would be next. 4-0 Chicago. Last of the 8th. Sosa at third, Grace at second. set up inside that time. Gaetti. Well, you got a pitch to hit.
Well, maybe they don't think he can handle a fastball.
That one came back and hit the rooftop here at Wrigley Field, just above us. Sosa at third base. Grace at second. Ready to go in anything with 2 down. Fights it off. So Mason staying with the hard stuff and still cheering him on from the stands. His wife, Donna. Darren Gaetti is from this part of the country. When the Cardinals told him they were going to cut him loose, the one team he really wanted to go to was the Cubs, to be close to home. And that was worked out. Much to Gaetti's pleasure, but been a great pickup for the Cubs. Trying to slide it that time, but that is also fought off by Gaetti. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Cubs got 2 in the 5th on the Gaetti homer, 2 in the 6th on the Matt Mieske pinch hit single. Those have been the only runs of the game. For the Giants and Dusty Baker, frustration. They've left 10 men on base. Barry Bonds 0 for 4 without getting a ball out of the infield. Wild pitch, and Sosa will score the 5th run.
Tried to throw him, it looked like a splitter, and it bounces in front of the plate. Brett Maine cannot stop it, and it bounces to the backstop, and Sosa comes in to score easily.
It is 5-0 Cubs. 2-2 to Gaetti. Now Grace at third. High in the air to left, but an easy play for Bonds. Cubs need 3 outs more, and then they'll be heading to Atlanta if they can get them. Bonds is not due up till 5th in the inning. It is 5-0 now Cubs as we go to the 9th inning. And they're getting ready to celebrate here at Wrigley Field. Tomorrow, baseball's divisional series will begin. Pedro Martinez and the Red Sox against Jared Wright and the Indians at 1 on ESPN. Then Kevin Brown and Randy Johnson at the Astrodome at 4 on ESPN. And then the Yanks and Rangers, Stottlemyre versus Wells, 8 o'clock Eastern on the Fox network. That's tomorrow on ESPN. The first 2 games and then Fox. Now Kevin Tapani trying to wrap this one up. And the Giants have Maine, Miller, and DeJavier due up. Dunston 4th, and Bonds not till 5th. They'll have to get 2 men on to get Bonds up there. That's a base hit for Brett Maine. First ball swinging. And he is 2 for 2 in this one. One-game tiebreaker for the wild card berth in the National League Division Series. The Giants and the Cubs. And the Cubs are leading 5-0 as we go to the 9th inning. Sammy Sosa, a couple of hits and a couple of runs tonight, but no homers. The Giants down to their final 3 outs. SportsCenter follows the game with Kenny Mayne and Dan Patrick. Bill Miller in the dirt, saved by Houston. Mayne has to hold it first. On SportsCenter, by the way, they'll have interviews and post-game coverage from Wrigley Field, so stay tuned for that. The Giants in their third tiebreaker playoff. They won both of them. The previous ones, 51 and 62, trailing in the 9th inning. But they were never this far behind. They were never this far away from home. They were never without Willie Mays. He played in both of them. Willie Mays was on deck in 1951. He was a rookie when Bobby Thompson hit the famous 3-run homer against Ralph Branker. Bill Miller, 1 ball, 1 strike. Up the middle. That's a base hit. Over to third base goes Brent May. Well, they had their 2 base runners. And on to the top of the batting order for Stan Javier. Mulholland and Beck warming up in the bullpen, the same 2 who threw yesterday. Mulholland went 8 innings yesterday. And Beck 2 2/3 out of the bullpen. And Riggleman is headed to the mound.
It's an interesting decision here. You know, Beck has pitched a lot the last couple of games, and Mulholland pitched 7 yesterday, and they're bringing in the left-hander.
He's going to go to Mulholland. 8 innings yesterday, and he's back for more. 2 on, nobody out. Javier coming up. Well, there is Terry Mulholland. Yesterday, he pitched 8 innings at Wrigley at the Astrodome. Now he's back at Wrigley Field tonight. He threw 121 pitches yesterday. Pitched his heart out.
He pitched great yesterday. He couldn't stop the couple of bloopers that really hurt them, but I mean, he has pitched in the past. I mean, most of the year he's pitched out of the bullpen, so he has pitched on consecutive days, but not after pitching 8 innings.
He inherits Brent Maine, the runner at third, and Bill Miller, the runner at first. And the batter, Stan Javier, a switch hitter. Last year, the Giants had a huge 2-game series late in September at home against the Los Angeles Dodgers. They needed really to win both of them, and they did. The second one was started. It was Mulholland against the Dodgers. And he pitched a very strong game. And Rod Beck pitched 3 innings in relief that day and got the win. Base hit. The Giants have their first run of the game.
Well,
Riggleman's really taking a huge gamble here, Joe. I mean, he's going with guys who are tired. You got a whole bullpen full of guys who haven't pitched in 2 or 3 days. I mean, if this doesn't work, we'll be talking about Gene Mauch and other decisions that didn't go well.
Well, Stan Javier doesn't waste any time. First pitch fastball, and he rips it to left field for a base hit. And that gets the Giants' first run. And that run that the Cubs got in the bottom of the 8th inning was very, very important.
Here's Ellis Burks now.
Because Burks would be the tying run now.
If he can get aboard, Barry Bonds would be next, and he would be the tying run, despite that 5th run.
And they're fresh out of left-handers in the bullpen.
Rod Beck, who threw 36 pitches yesterday and 24 the day before, is ready in the bullpen. Ellis Burks, the former Colorado Rocky, acquired by the Giants just at the trading deadline. Since they acquired Burks, their lineup took a much different look to it. They've averaged over 6 runs a game the last 2 months. Burks, though, has been hurting with a bad knee and has not played the last few days. But you can see why he's in there now. He said before the game he was 90%. And he could go to the outfield if needed. But at only 90%, Dusty did not want to start.
Yes!
Big rip there.
Well, he's 6 for 13 lifetime with 1 home run against Mulholland, so he has faced him quite a bit.
Quickly, 2 strikes, no balls to Ellis Burks. Tried to curve him, and it just wasn't there for him. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Barry Bonds, the man on deck, another left-handed hitter, has also had quite a great deal of success against Terry Mulholland.
Well, that's why I say they don't have anyone else down the bullpen, another left-hander.
Check swing foul. That one winged the catcher, Tyler Houston. Sports Center right after the ball game. Again, they will have interviews and post-game reports from Wrigley Field on Sports Center. Stay tuned. The Cubs are leading 5-1, but they're getting nervous in Chicago again. 3 straight hits to start the inning for the Giants. Nobody out. Burks reaching for it, swinging at anything close here with 2 strikes.
Yeah, well, that was a good pitch as far as Mulholland is concerned because there wasn't a lot Burks could do with it.
Bill Miller at second. Stan Javier at first. Barry Bonds on deck. Two and 2. The last days of the season, very tense, but not much success for the Cubs. Problems out of the bullpen often. Burks fouls this one off to the right. 2-2, the count remains. And of course, the specter of this 7-0 lead that disappeared into a loss on Wednesday in Milwaukee, I'm sure is fresh in the minds, all too fresh in the minds of many of these Cubs fans. Certainly in Riggleman's mind, because he's doing stuff much differently than he did all year long. That is foul. Just did get a piece of it.
Well, Burks is doing a good job of spoiling him, and Mulholland continues to throw strikes.
This will be the 9th pitch from Mulholland to Ellis Burks. Burks making Mulholland wait. Mulholland, who's had 2 or 3 different tours of duty as a Giant. 2-2 the count. And it's gone full now. 3-2. It's at least a 10 pitch at bat now. Well, they always used to say when he was with the Giants that if they wanted him to, he could pitch every day. He had that kind of an arm. Well, Jim Riggleman is testing that theory. He walked it. The bases are loaded, and incredibly, Barry Bonds, who might not have even batted in this inning, not only will bat, but he is the possible tying run, even though it was a 5-run deficit that faced the Giants when the inning started.
And not only that, he's had a lot of success against Terry Mulholland. He's 14 for 46 with 6 home runs.
A pinch runner will go in at first. Ray Sanchez, a former Cub. So Barry Bonds against Mulholland. 6 home runs for Bonds in those 46 at-bats against Mulholland. A frightening percentage. Beauty on the outside. It is 0-1. Miller at third, Javier at second, and Sanchez at first. Bonds batting with the bases loaded for the 2nd straight time. 1 ball, 1 strike. And again, Bonds does not need the home run here.
No.
Jeff Kent is on deck. They have nobody out. Sosa tagging is Miller. He'll score. Going to third as the throw came all the way through to the plate. The third in the play is Javier, holding at first Sanchez.
Well, Barry hit the ball hard. He just didn't get it up or down.
Now the right-handed batting Kent coming up, and Riggleman is going out. He's going to make another change apparently.
Fastball right in the middle of the plate, and Bonds hits it hard. He just didn't get it up in the air.
So Mulholland gets through it, although he faced 3 and he retired only 1. And now Rod Beck, as you call him, Joe, a warrior. And the Giants have often called him that. Rod Beck, who was one of the great heroes of the '93 stretch run in their pennant race with Atlanta. I mean, it seemed like he pitched every day in September that year. And that's not far from the truth. And there's the man he's coming in to face. Jeff Kent. They were teammates last year. Until this season, Rod Beck had never pitched for anybody in the big leagues but the Giants. And he was unhappy to leave them. And now Beck, who had his first blown save this year as a Cub after a strong start when the Giants made their first visit to Wrigley Field, but nonetheless has had 50 saves for the year, only the 5th pitcher in history to reach that level. But now Beck is also being asked to do something that is beyond the ordinary. He pitched 2 2/3 innings yesterday, and every pitch he threw had the game and maybe even the season riding on it. 36 pitches. He pitched the 9th inning Saturday, 24 pitches. And here is Rod Beck again. And sometimes it's been said about Rod that it's not his pitches that he gets hitters out with so much. Sometimes it's more like the hitters get themselves out with Rod. He doesn't blow anybody away anymore.
Well, Jeff Kent has been swinging the bat very well, and we'll see what Rod Beck has left coming in for the 3rd straight day. And Joe Carter's on deck. Jeff Kent is the tying run, and as I said before, the wind has shifted. The wind is blowing out a little bit toward left field.
So Kent, as you see the flags, they have shifted indeed. It looked like a ball to left in the air will get a pretty good push. And Kent, who yesterday, after the Giants had blown their own 7-0 lead in Denver and fallen behind, Kent launched a home run in the 8th inning to tie that game. He has 31 homers and 127 runs batted in. Today, he is 0 for 3. He was hit by a pitch once. 5-2 the score. Rod Beck in that familiar pose with the right arm, rocking back and forth. 80 miles an hour. I don't know if that's supposed to be a splitter or what.
I think that was a fastball. From the way he released it, it looked like a fastball.
Well, that is well below even where Rod has been throwing. I mean, he's been up consistently 88, 89 the last couple of years. 2 on, 2 in, 1 out. Well, they better get that bullpen. They better maybe get somebody else up, Joe.
This is interesting. No one throwing in the Cubs bullpen.
There it is. It says it all right there.
Well, in yesterday's ball game, Mulholland started, and I felt like he was only going to use Mulholland and Beck yesterday, and that looks like what he's going to do here in the 9th inning.
2-0 to Kent, and those first 2 pitches did not have much on them.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Well, if that first fastball was 80 miles an hour, that one was 75. You see Dusty Baker said, man, he had a pitch to hit. That was up, which is the kind of ball you're going to get in the air. Look at that. And, man, he just misses it. But that's Rod Beck. He will come after you even though he knows he doesn't have his best stuff. He's a battler. He's a competitor.
The Cubs limping to the finish. The warrior Rod Beck with very little left, it is apparent.
That's all he needs.
There's one to first. Off the bat. Coming in to score is Javier. At second base, the pinch runner Sanchez, the former Cub, came in real hard on Morandini.
Well, Beck needed to have one good pitch, and he makes the good pitch. He gets the ground ball. Sanchez has to back up because it's a tough hop. He feeds Morandini, but right there on top of him is Sanchez. Good job by Sanchez. He makes him throw the ball away.
Let's go. Let us celebrate. Let's go.
So Jeff Kent gets an RBI there. His 128th. But it's not exactly the way he wanted to get it. Now 2 down. But Joe Carter former World Series hero, who had been so strong for the Giants in the stretch. And we got a fan who's run out from the bleachers onto the field, and that's why we have the delay now. And security here at the ballpark taking care of the intruder. We're talking about Joe Carter in a big spot. This was 1993, Game 6 of the World Series.
Now the 2-2. Well hit down the left field line. Way back and gone! Joe Carter with a 3-run homer.
Well, that was Carter 5 years ago. Doesn't seem that long. And now Carter in what could be his final at bat. He will retire when this season is over. And he himself could well help determine whether or not it is his final at bat. 2 down in the 9th inning, and Rod Beck trying to pull off something that's almost superhuman, existing only on guile right now. He's not thrown a pitch faster than 80 miles an hour yet. That was a slider. Three runs in for the Giants. It is 5-3 in the 9th inning. Well, now he had something out of Joe.
Well, that was a waste pitch, and it was up. He was just trying to move him off the plate. Because I don't think he's going to try to get Joe Carter out with a fastball. I think he wants to get him out with a splitter or a slider.
Rod Beck needing one save more to put the Cubs in the playoffs as he faces the only other team he's ever pitched with in the big leagues to try and put them there.
John, that was interesting right there. That was a splitter, but he can't get up on top with the splitter. I mean, he threw that ball like 3/4, almost sidearm. He can't get on top to throw that, to get the good movement on the splitter.
JT Snow would be next. 2-1 to Carter. He is 0 for 3 in the game. Kent is at first.
I don't know why they're holding him on over there.
Grace right on the bag with him. And the Giants are down to their final strike.
Why would you be holding him on when his run doesn't mean anything?
Several questions that we have about how this one has been executed. 2-2 with 2 down. Off the fists, and Grace will take it. The Cubs have won it, and they will go to the postseason. they go to Atlanta. We don't know how much they have left to give when they get to Atlanta. This 1998 Cubs team will be remembered for many things. And the first few of those things, certainly on the list, will all be something to do with Sammy Sosa. But when it was all on the line, Jim Riggleman went with two former Giants against the Giants, and they had just barely enough left to give. Mon Holland saw Bonds hit one hard, but into an out, and then Rod Beck threw maybe one pitch over 80 miles an hour, but Beck had enough to get both Kent and Joe Carter, two of the top RBI men in the game.
And John, maybe it's only fitting that Sammy Sosa goes to the playoffs because Mark McGwire's not going to be there. And he at least has done so much for the game this year that maybe it's only fitting that he's there.
All right, well, there he is with Carlos Diaz. Carlos?
Well, Sammy Sosa's here. He's putting on his shirt that he's been waiting to put on all season long. He thought he'd be putting on this shirt after 162 games, but it turned out to be 163. Sammy, you said all season long that all you wanted to do was make the playoffs. Now you're in the playoffs. How do you feel?
I feel great. It's been unbelievable all year long with the year that I've been having. But, you know, never thinking about it until today. I mean, tonight is something that I'm never going to forget in my life. All my team was here with me. I was there for 4. And today I forgot about the home run. I just want to win. I want to go out there and celebrate with other people in Chicago.
You came in and you said you predicted this. You said you would be here. Is this another premonition that you've had?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, all year long it's been unbelievable. And tonight, trash a pitching great game. One of the games that I'm never going to forget. And everybody came through. Gaetti, everybody, we're here to celebrate.
Woo! Quite fitting that this season ends with you with 66 home runs. The home run race is now officially over. You have 66 home runs. Now you can look back. How do you feel about 66?
But you have to know, the Mark McGwire is the man. He's the king of home run, but they got to go to me first to get to Mark. You know that, Mark? You are number 1, but I'm number 2. I love you. And this has been unbelievable. That's something I'm not going to forget it. Whatever happened in 1998, thank you for all the fans that support me here in Chicago, all over the place. God bless America.
Well, John, it's quite fitting. They're playing Spanish music right here in the club's clubhouse. Let's head back up to you, John.
Sammy Sosa. Well, indeed, McGwire wins the home run. Chase has the home run record. And Sammy Sosa is heading into the postseason and probably as the MVP of the National League. Rod Beck, the Warrior, as he did for the Giants for so many years, somehow finding a way to get it done. His 51st save. The Giants, as is part of their history, a great run in the 9th inning. This time, they fell a little bit short.